And here we go with another I Will Never Forgive You podcast. Last one of the year. And we're going into the workshop. I'm going to be retooling things from here on out. One of the things, the biggest thing, we're not at the Q&A yet, but let me go ahead and read one comment from Hunter Stone anyway. I know it's hard for you, but I think if you kept up to the release schedule, more people would start watching the podcast. I agree. What was the very first thing I said in the very first episode? I have a lot of experience with podcasts. I know somebody started one from scratch, and he's very successful 15 years later. The number one thing you have to do is keep the release schedule, whatever it is. Set a reasonable release schedule. I'm going to do 4 podcasts a week. Well, if you can't do that, then don't set that schedule. I thought once every 2 weeks was reasonable, and for the most part, I've been able to keep it. This is the 19th episode, and I would say 15 of them were probably on schedule. Like noon Wednesday was I think we started on Sunday, didn't we? Then I had to move it because of my workflow. But, set a reasonable release schedule. Stick to it. You have to release the same time. It doesn't matter what you say, once a year, once a month, once a day, whatever it is you set, stick to it. Stick to the goddamn schedule. And I truly believe that. That is the most important part about a podcast. Now, I think my numbers are really good. Like, more people watch a podcast episode initially, like the first week, than watch anything else I do, other than maybe like an epic rap battle reaction. That's, that got 500 views in 24 hours. So that's pretty good. That shit comes out once a year. So, the fans are really excited. They're going to immediately go watch a bunch of reactions to it. The other shit, like especially anime is kind of older, is just not going to get those kind of views initially. But the views do grow over time. But the point is, you have to stick to a goddamn release schedule. You have to. If you can't do that, your podcast is going to fail 100 times out of 100 times. That's the number one thing that kills, because fans don't know when to get it. Now, I'm in a little bit different position because I put out content almost daily. Probably 6 days a week I put out something. Certainly during the weekdays. And then never down in on weekends. So people frequently visit my channel. And, so I have through traffic anyway, so whenever I randomly put in a podcast. So I'm in a better situation with people that all they do is podcasts. If all you do is a podcast, and that's the only reason people have to look you up and to find you, your podcast will fail if you can't stick to your schedule. It's just that simple. No excuses. No, but I was busy. No, my computer crashed. None of that shit. Stick to schedule or you die. It's that simple. If you go for the king, you better not miss. And in this case, going for the king and starting a podcast, you win or you die. It's that simple. So fortunately, things aren't that dire for me. But yeah, just I wanted the first part of this point, I 100% know and believe, and believe me, like, if I could have stuck to the schedule, I would have. But, some things are out of my control. But there's a fix for that, which we'll get to in a minute. I don't know if this is possible, but what if your production of the podcast is 1 week behind the release date of the podcast? Just don't release it for an entire week. Exactly. It wasn't possible under my current format. Because what that would require is me to finish a podcast and immediately do another podcast. And one already takes a long time. Doing 2 back-to-back would just blow up an entire week, essentially. But I'm taking some time off. This is the last podcast. This is coming out Wednesday, December 17th. This is coming out probably Tuesday, December 16th. 6 days late. But if I was doing the bi-weekly schedule, it'd actually be 1 day early, ironically. But at that point, I'm taking at least 3 weeks off. I'm not committing to when I'm coming back. My target goal is January 7th, which is the first Wednesday in January. I might push that to the 14th, just simply for the simple fact that, I want to do what I'm talking about here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do another emergency podcast so that I'll have 2 in the bank. And then I'm going to do the first podcast in January. And then that will be done before whatever my release date is. Like, I may not set my release date until I finish this podcast and exported it, at that point. Like I said, my target's January 7th. We'll see how that goes. But whenever I come back, I will then be on a schedule where I do it the week before. The only issue there really is the comments in the first week. The comments are basically accumulated. And that's one of the biggest sticking points. You can't do 2 back-to-back because of comments. The feedback's very important to the show. And that's rule number 2. Stick to schedule. Number 2, involve the fans. Read all your comments. Feedback. That's a crucial component of the podcast. If people don't feel heard, they don't give a shit. They're not going to listen. So that's just what it is. So I'm taking that up a notch by making it skippable because with the text on the screen, you can see. You can't skip this comment because it's vital to what I'm talking about here. But, yeah, I made it skippable. People don't care about comments. If you do care about comments, they're there. But that's why I can't do like episodes back to back, unless it's like an extra bonus, secret podcast. And then when that gets released, I would do a separate comment video. That's how that'll work. Anyway, this is what I'm going to do. So, for instance, my release on January 7th, I will have finished the podcast by January 1st. It'll be on early access, and then it'll get released on schedule. And then what happens is that gives me a week to do my other shit. And then I will have had a whole week off, and then I can get to the podcast. It gives me more time. And that way, it should never be late again. Because typically, what would happen is, like, say I've had some podcasts come out on Thursday or Friday. Well, that Thursday or Friday would be the Thursday or Friday before it's supposed to come out that next Wednesday, instead of a day or two after when it's supposed to come out. That's what this is going to do for me. Because I can typically do it even when things go wrong and I'm late and I have deadlines, especially the first of the month is always really bad for me. So if a podcast comes out somewhere around the first of the month, that's what delays things typically. No matter how bad things get, I've almost always been like just only a day or two late. Sometimes it's 3 days late, but the latest I would be, here is a case where I'm almost a week late. But even now, I'm recording this Monday and it wouldn't be due till Wednesday. So even now, even the latest pretty much the latest I've ever been, I would still be 2 days early. So that's why this makes so much sense. And, this is a great idea. I'm definitely taking this advice. And this time off between now and when I resume operations next year will definitely, allow me to do this. I was never going to be able to do this on a 2-week schedule. So I needed to have a hiatus. And so the holidays are a great time to have a hiatus. Now, what I might do is some kind of smaller, shorter, informal holiday, Christmas, New Year's Eve themed podcast that wouldn't have feedback. Yeah, I'll save the feedback for the next official episode because the feedback takes a long time. It takes a long time to record. It takes a long time to edit. The actual podcast itself, typically I could do 1 or 2 sittings, 90 minutes, and then the edit is I pretty much have a flow. Finding comments, reading them, understanding what I'm reading. I read it badly, so I have to do a second take. The comments take a long time with recording and editing. The actual podcast doesn't take very long. So I should be able to do a podcast as well. Because I don't want to just skip the holidays. Because I love holidays. I love talking about holidays. We can talk about holiday movies and stuff like that. I'll figure, maybe not. We'll see what happens there. But the hiatus isn't going to be too long. We're talking about less than a month. But it will give me time to do this. So that is the plan. The plan is I'm taking a short hiatus. I come back next year, and I'll be a week ahead. So if you want to go over to Tier 3, that's where the early access will be. You'll be able to catch it early, get your comments in early, and we'll go from there. And there'll actually be some perks on Tier 3 for the podcast. Also, if you like the TV series From, I'm doing reactions to it slowly but surely. It's going to take me a while. Those are available on Tier 3, the early access to that. I already have 3 full reactions, and the edited reaction to episode 1 is there as I speak. And I'll be adding more on a weekly basis. So that's another perk. And I'm going to get back to the monthly themed videos. I'm like 3 months behind at this point. I'm going to get back to that shit during this hiatus as well. So it's going to be a win-win, the hiatus. The other thing we're changing is literally nobody gives a shit about the cussing contest anymore. I didn't get a single prediction this time. We're done. We're not doing that anymore. It takes more time for me to find a Bugs Bunny and put that in there and then figure out what the time is, the edited time is going to be, and then write that in there. Then we actually get comments for it. So we're done with that. I'll figure out some other kind of contest or something. I'm not sure what form that'll take. But I'll figure out some other way for people to potentially win a reaction or something. But like this was not working. It was fun at first, but I think it just kind of petered out. If you have suggestions, I was thinking maybe if somebody says an anime word in a contest, I would randomly pick a word before I release the episode, like forgive or so, something related to anime, or maybe an anime character's name, or something that like could very likely be said in a comment. The first person to say it would win. I don't know. Like that's a lot of work. Come up with something new every time. And then the chances of people hitting on that are probably less than we had already with this, right? So, but just to show you where my mind's at, I'm thinking about different ways. It would have something to do with comments, obviously, because I got to select somebody. I don't particularly like the idea of everybody who comments gets, one name, one lottery ticket, and then pull out a name. So it's like, say Hunter, leaves 5 comments. He would have 5 names in the hat. And then other people leave comments and they would get names in the hat. I just randomly pull out a name. I don't like that because there's no transparency. There's no way to do that. And you believe that it's on the up and up, right? Like, I'm honorable. I'm gonna, if I do something like, I'm never gonna like tip the scales on a contest to make sure somebody wins. There's certain people I like more than other people, just because of the nature of their comments or their personality or their humor or whatever. But I would never tip the scales. I would never let somebody win who wasn't gonna win. Or just, hey, I think I want Hunter to win this week. But there's no way to prove that unless we had a live stream, And my live stream technology is. My computer's already, it's subject to crash anytime I try to initiate that. And so I just have not had time to screw with it. So that's not great. So unless I did a live stream, and, Rod and Karen, the Black Guy Who Tips podcast, they're my role models. They're my sensei, essentially. They did for the last 10, 15 years, they've done all their podcasts live. Like it's out there. So and that's what amazes me about this dude. He did Rod specifically because he would do most of the talking. Like Karen was very funny; she would chime in, but Rod was the host. He would do most of the talking. He would set up everything. He'd do all the reads. He'd do the ad reads and everything. And he would do 90 minutes and almost never fumble his words. Never be lost for a word. What word am I looking for? Never get a guest name wrong. Never get the timing wrong on a joke. He's just unbelievable. And he got his start calling into radio shows like the Right Time with Bomani Jones and Jim Rome and some of these other sports talk shows where you get on there and you talk to an audience of 2 million people live. They have a tape delay in case you say a cuss word, but typically it's live. Like the delay is only 5 seconds. And he would nail these calls. That's how he got his start. Like he was so good. He became a regular contributor to the Bomani Jones, whatever. He's had a bunch of shows, whatever his Raleigh radio show was back in the day, right? He had he would become a frequent, he would be like, people would be looking forward to his calls every week and his sports takes. Because he just has an ability to just talk live and not fumble his words, ever. I'm pretty good. Like when I edit, sometimes with this podcast, I can go 10 minutes without a single edit. Like I'm just talking continuously. Because I'll take out spaces. If I pause to think for 10, 15 seconds, I'm going to take that out. If I slur a word and restate the sentence again with a cleaner take, as I often do, then I'll cut that out. But sometimes I can go 10, 15 minutes without none of that happening. I don't slur a word. I don't get a name wrong. I'm not searching for a word. I don't, I'm not stumbling on anything. I don't have any pauses. I'm pretty good. But I can only go 10, 15 minutes and something's going to happen. That's another reason I'm a little worried about streaming because like there's no safety net. There's no editing it. And so if I can't think of a word, I'm sitting there for 30 seconds trying to think of a word, that's tedious to watch. People are not going to watch that. So I'm a little worried about that. Computer problems are the biggest issue. But I'm pretty good. I can go 10 minutes. Right now I'm on a streak right now of at least 5 minutes straight talking with no mistakes that I would have to edit out. So that's another reason why the podcast section is so easy to edit. Because I can get on a flow. I'm not trying to read shit. I'm not trying to look where the next comment is. I'm not trying to understand what they're saying. Maybe they had a typo or the punctuation isn't there, so I'm just stumbling on it a little bit where I then have to edit that out. The actual podcast part of this is just, I can just go. And it's clean. I'm good. He is Superman. He is the best I've ever seen. And, at least 10 years. It was 2012 when I first stumbled on podcasts and started sponsoring it. I had two podcasts. There was two married couples talking about pop culture. I sponsored them both for 2 months, and I got sales from his. And his had a very active fan base, and a lot of people were getting conversation just because we were on Twitter back then. And then he would tweet out my handle, and I would get a bunch of comments. Hey, thanks for sponsoring all this stuff. This other group, just never. There was no response whatsoever. I didn't get any sales, and so I picked Rod and Karen, and I was the first one to ever sponsor them. And now they have a financial money making enterprise. He was able to quit his job, but so 2012. So that's 13 years for sure. He was doing it for a year before that, but he was doing it live by the time I found him. So for at least 13 years, what used to be 4 shows a week, I think he's down to like 2 to 3 shows a week now. But it's 4 shows a week and then a feedback show. He would do Monday through Thursday, take Friday off, and then Saturday would be a feedback, all the comments and stuff they got all week. He would address that on Saturday, and then he'd take Sunday off. So 4 days a week, plus I think the feedback show was not live, but the 4 shows a week was live. 4 shows a week, 90 minutes to 2.5 hours consistently. And I swear to God, I almost never heard him slur his words, never heard him stumble, never had a bad reading of a delivery of a joke or nothing, man. It's just unbelievable. So he was Superman. So the point is, the reason I got off on this in the first place was he's excellent at the podcast. He's a genius. He's so smooth, so fluid, so clean. It's a very enjoyable listening experience. It's painful to listen to somebody who's stumbling around in a live stream, right? Like it's stopping and starting, pausing, searching for thoughts. Like I said, I could go on a run and do 10, 15 minutes straight, very clean, but then, I would have the stumbling and the stuff I edit out that you never see to just make for a better listening experience, right? So that's the other reason why I don't like live streams. It's outside my comfort zone, and I probably would have just anxiety and shit where it's like, and then when you get anxiety, you're not going to be as clean. You're going to be searching your thoughts, and you compound the issue, right? I was never good at TV interviews and shit for that same reason, because I don't have editorial control. So that would get in my head and be worried about, well, how's this going to come across if I stumble my words, or like, because my memory's always been bad. I couldn't remember character names. I couldn't remember the name of one of my scripts in this one TV interview I did. It was all local TV interviews, but I couldn't remember the name of the damn script, man. Just, so like that's never been inside my comfort zone. So I don't like live streaming. I want to do it, but it's not something I would want to do every 2 weeks. Like I can promise you that. And so there's no way to really prove beyond a shadow of doubt to the audience, this is on the up and up. I know you trust me, and like my honor is not even within question as far as I'm concerned, because like I don't believe in cheating, and I don't believe in tipping the scales for any particular person, because it just destroys morale, and you lose people at that point if they even get a hint of that, right? So I don't want to do something that would require a blind draw that you don't see you just get the result, you don't see what happens. See, there was transparency in the podcast, because even if I did want to tip the scales, how the hell would I do that? Would I reorder redo the order of the subjects we talk about, or cut out shit just to make a time work for what somebody predicted? Like, how the hell would I do that? Like, it would destroy the flow of the podcast. Hello Internet is one of my favorite podcasts. It had CGP Grey, and it had what the hell is the other guy's name? Mike something. No, not Mike. I don't remember. Yes, that'd be a case where I'm searching for a name. I don't remember the guy's name, but because CPG Grey did 2 podcasts. One with somebody called Mike that was called Cortex, and then Hello Internet was with a different person. But anyway, they would talk for like 3 hours, and then they would edit it together into a podcast. And usually the podcast would be 90 minutes to 2 hours or something like that. But they would reorder the topics. And I don't understand why, particularly. But I remember that one time this became clear, and then I looked into it, and it was like, yeah, that's actually common knowledge. It would be like, say we talk about sports, and then we talk about movies, and then we talk about TV shows, and talk about comic books, right? That was the order you and I talk about it. But then in editing, I take the comic books and put that to be the first thing in the podcast. And then take the TV shows and make that the second thing. And then movies are the third thing. And then, whatever else. Like, each topic is self-contained, but the conversation evolves. And so this one time they referenced something that it was near the beginning of the podcast, and he says, like I said before, dot dot dot, and then he did this thing, and I'm like, he didn't say that before. What are you talking about? And then at the very end of the podcast, that thing he said, like I said before, came up. Like, I don't know what it was. Say it was calendars. Like I said before, the 7-day work week just doesn't make any sense. Calendars are stupid. It was like a passing comment. And then an hour later, at the end of the podcast, they went into 7-day work weeks and calendars and all this stuff. And it threw me out. It was like, what the hell? Why would you do that? Like, why would you reference them? Like, clearly this conversation happened after that, but then you put the conversation happened earlier at the end. That threw me, man. It's like, why the hell would you do that? It makes no sense. If we do that, the conversation evolves. I very often will reference something I said earlier in the podcast, later in the podcast, right? I'll do a running gag or a joke. I mentioned, this is the third time Jack Nicholson's come up and he's not even an anime character. How the hell did that happen? Well, if I said that right now, you're like, he ain't never mentioned Jack Nicholson ever in any of his episodes. And then later, I mentioned Jack Nicholson, and then I mentioned him again a second time at the end of the podcast. The hell, man? That would make no goddamn sense. And that would be how you'd know I'll be cheating the edit to try to get somebody to win a cussing contest, right? So I worry about these things because perception is everything. There have been a couple people accuse me of watching shows before I react to them. And it really bothers me. And one of the reasons it bothers me is because of my shitty memory. And this, the fact that I have literally reacted to movies twice and didn't remember the second time I was doing it that I had done it before. It's been a couple years. But that has happened to me. That has happened to me. It was, what the hell was it? What did I react to twice? It was, I think it was the Kevin Costner serial killer movie. I think that's what it was. I had 2 reactions to that shit out there. Now, I got rid of the old one because the second one was better. But I reacted to that joint twice and did not remember any time during my first reaction, my second reaction, that I had ever seen this before. That is some scary shit. That's some dementia shit right there, man. I've always had a bad memory, but it's time to wander into the ice flow. It's time for you to get your ass and just wander out into the ice. You old ass, demented ass. By the way, I told you we're getting rid of the cussing contest, right? So that's the whole point of this whole diatribe. I'm still in the promotion section of this podcast. This one's going to be a long one. Because this is I'm getting rid of the contest, and because this is the end of the year, I'm not going to be monetizing this particular episode, so I can fucking cuss as much as I fucking want to. So I want to get that out there. This is the Uncensored Podcast. You've already seen that in the title, but this is the end of year Uncensored Podcast. At the end of every year, I'll do an Uncensored Podcast where I won't monetize it. So, I lose out a few bucks, but probably not even that. Probably like 25 cents, the way that this shit's working. But, the long playing things, you can make a hell of a lot more money because you get paid on how long the video is and how long people watch. So maybe it's more than 25 cents, but whatever, man. Like, I am fucking cussing. So, this is my Uncensored Podcast. So my point was, I was going to say old motherfuckers. Stop myself, and then I remembered this is supposed to be an Uncensored Podcast. So old motherfuckers, get your old demented ass out on that ice floe. Leave the tribe alone. Say goodbye to everybody. Give away your good shit and just wander out there and freeze to death. Because that's what that is. When I've done a reaction to a movie twice, and I don't fucking remember the first time I did it, it's time to walk out into the ice floe. Like, that's a wrap, man. That's it. It's over. So because of that, I have some insecurity about, like, maybe I did see this shit before. Now, I know with the anime I haven't, because I only watched one anime in my childhood ever, and that was Star Blazers. It's the only one I've ever seen. So, in the nature of anime being what it is, unless it's an anime movie, it's possible. Like I said, a movie's possible. I don't think it's possible for me to watch a TV series and not know I've seen it before. Because I even remember the movie. I was about to watch The Master for a second time. with the Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix. I accepted it. I was setting it up. I was finding where it was on streaming. I was about to hit record, and I was like, wait a minute. Joaquin Phoenix, Philip Seymour Hoffman. That seems familiar. Then I looked at the description, and I was like, oh shit, I had seen this shit. So even with the movie, sometimes I do remember at the last minute. That almost happened. I was this close to at least starting it. Now, I think I would have recognized it because that's such a weird movie. I would have definitely remembered. That's why it stood out, This Kevin Costner thing, I guess, just doesn't stand out. And then there was another movie I did that I reacted to, but I had seen it with Dad 15 years before that. That was The Departed. I had seen it with him when it first came out. Didn't remember until 3 days after I put out the reaction. 3 days after I put out the reaction, I remembered, wait a minute, I've seen this shit before. Because I remembered an argument I had with Dad. I woke up in the morning. This is 3 days after I put out the reaction. I woke up in the morning and the memory was clear in my head. I must have dreamed about it or something. Because I could remember the argument I had with him. Dad and I argued, not violently in the sense we were hitting each other, but just passionately. Passionately is probably a better word. I argued with him passionately for at least a half hour about the end of this damn movie. Like, he was pissed at this movie. And I was like, took the other side because I was like, well, this is valid. It's all right. I didn't feel as passionate as he did. So he pretty much won the argument because it's with any argument. Any argument you have, whoever cares about the argument more will win the argument because they care more. That's how it goes. So, point being, I just don't like, the other thing about my childhood is that relates to this, is I spent years, this one particular stepfather, the others probably contributed to this. I know my brother contributed to it. My brother's always trying to paint me as a liar and manipulate me and make me believe I was as shitty as he is, essentially. It's like he was trying to gaslight me, I guess is what we could say. So he did that, but really I had a stepfather who just constantly, on a daily basis, accused me of lying about everything. He was saying, like, and I was very skinny back then. You can look at me now and maybe you think it's funny, but like, I was super skinny. I was 5'10", 14 years old, and 125 pounds. Super skinny, right? I was already really tall, and I was just so skinny. And he was constantly accusing me of sneaking into the kitchen at night, stealing food from the fridge to eat it, right? And I never did it, man. If I did it, I would tell you I did it. Maybe I wouldn't have told him because he'd beat my ass. I'm telling you, man, I never did that shit, not a single time. Especially not after he started accusing me of it. He started doing shit where, like, he would, like, have this bedroom door, because his bedroom door had a hallway that you could look straight down the hallway and see the fridge. That's just the way it was set up. You had this hallway that had, like, a bedroom and some bathrooms and maybe another bedroom. And then the kitchen, and then you take a right, and then there's a living room. And then there was, like, some kind of, I think it was a dining room. And then you had the stairs that went up to the attic, which is where I slept with my brother, right? So I would have to come down the attic, go through the living room, sneak into the kitchen. But Mom told me, he would, like, open the door and lay down and have his head where he could see the fridge. He believed it. I guess he believed the shit if he was doing that. If he was going to those lengths to watch me break into this fridge, and it never happened. And then the next day, he'd do some shit like he would hit me and then say some shit like, so you wait until I went to bed to get some food out of the fridge, huh? Shit like that, right? And so just being constantly accused of being a liar as a kid means that is my trigger. Boy, you have no idea how much I get triggered when somebody accuses me of lying when I didn't lie. Now, we all lie. Does this dress make me look fat? We all lie. I will particularly lie if something is not your business and you ask me a very personal question that's not your business, I'll lie right to your face. I don't give a shit. So we all lie. So if I'm lying, you accuse me of lying, I'm not going to be mad. But if I'm not lying, and you accuse me of lying, you're dead to me. It's that simple. I can't stand it. I know that's not your fault. This is the general you, not you. Not you right there. You're great. You've never accused me of lying. But you, right? You're dead to me. Like, it just, I don't fuck with you anymore, man. Like, I can't stand it. It drives me up the wall. Because I had to put up with it as a kid. I had to just bite my lip. Okay, I'm not going to admit to lying, but I can't, I'm not going to argue with you about it either. Just had to bite my lip for my entire fucking childhood. Not doing it as an adult, man. So, so I don't even want to put myself in a position where people might accuse me of lying. or might accuse me of some kind of dishonesty. It just drives me up the fucking wall, man. Like, it just drives me crazy. You know, and it's ruined really business relationships. And one of the dudes was just joking, man. He was just joking. He didn't. To this day, I don't believe he seriously thought I was lying. I forget what it was about. I think it was about having investors or something. Like, and he thought, oh, you're just financing this by yourself. You don't have investors. When I spent all this fucking time cultivating them, talking to them, having meetings, they go to bed at 2 a.m. after a shoot. They can go straight to sleep. I have to talk to the fucking investor. Here's the end of day report every day, right? Oh, you don't really have investors, do you? Never hired him again. You know, it's petty. But we all have our trauma, right? So, like, that's just, that's my ultimate trigger. So I don't like putting myself in positions where, people can think that about me. Because sometimes people get pissed off about contests. Man, I never win. That son of a bitch is rigging it against me. He's got something personal against me. He don't like that thing I said 3 years ago. Like I would remember, right? But, so I don't want, I want it to be on the up and up in a way that, like, there's no doubt to be cast on. And I feel like the cussing thing was perfect for that. Because we can all see what the fuck, where it was placed. We know, I guess I could do a little bit of shenanigans, a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, I suppose, to like, rig the vote or whatever, maybe. But some of these predictions are so wild, like, because, this is my second video. I don't know what the time stamp is going to be, what you're looking at right now. But this is my second video. I've been recording for 15 minutes. I don't remember how long I recorded before. How the fuck would I estimate? Okay, I remember this person said 1 hour and 15 minutes. They said that 2 weeks ago, and somehow I remember that. So now, once this recording thing gets up to 100, 1 hour and 20 minutes, I'm going to target my F-bomb right there so that they will win, right? Ain't nobody believing I'm doing that shit. By the time I get up to 1 hour and 20 minutes, there'll probably be 4 or 5 videos in. Each one has their own little time to stamp. I ain't doing the math. Plus, like I said, I'm cutting shit out. Like, I have no fucking idea what the end result's going to be. So, time-wise, right? So, there's no way to rig it. I don't think anybody believes that. It's not reasonable. So, I feel comfortable with that kind of a contest. I don't like the kind of contest where it's like, even though I would be honorable, there's no way for anybody to know that. So, said all that to say, I want to do some kind of like, reaction giveaway. I haven't figured out what that'll be yet, but I'll figure out something. So, anyway, no more cussing predictions. We're off that. I'll probably still do one. I like the idea of doing one F-bomb per podcast when I monetize a podcast. I'm letting the fuck flag fly. Damn, say that 3 times real fast. I'm letting the fuck flag fly this time. But moving forward next year, I'm going to be monetizing them again. I'll still do one because I like the idea of just doing one randomly, right? But tying the contest to it wasn't working. So, all right, well, let's go and get to the goddamn Q&A because holy shit, this is going to be a long one. So, like, this was just my setup. The point being of this past, however long it's been, 20 to 30 minutes, the point being, go to tier 3 and sign up. I guess that's what my point is. All right, now for the official Q&A, we've already got one question off the board. Let's go to we still got some more from Hunterstone. The next 3 are Hunterstones. So, looked at my Kaguya-sama Love is War manga, and they say that the squids are made out of sausages. Wow, that sounds delicious. I suppose if I was doing the normal podcast format, I'd be talking about gifts and stuff. Missed opportunity. Maybe I'll do that for my special holiday podcast that may or may not happen. It's Schrodinger's podcast at this point. It simultaneously will happen and will not happen, and we won't know until we open the box in probably about a week or 2. So, well, better not be more than a week. I'm recording this on the 15th. That's not good. But yeah, sausage squids sound a hell of a lot more delicious than squids, I must say. But I guess it explains why they were so excited to get it, right? Yeah, because one of them fell off the plate and they were like killing each other trying to catch it. So that was hilarious, man. I love that so much. I also love that he has a manga because I've actually read one issue of the manga. It's what somebody said it was something they didn't adapt in the anime, and so I went and checked it out. And it was when she was trying on different outfits, trying to be sexy. She was trying to figure out the sexiest outfit she could wear to make him commit to, liking her or whatever. And the punchline was she picked this cat outfit. She had cat ears and I think like cat claws, and it was like skin tight spandex or whatever. She had a little cat tail. And Chica was like, "Oh my God, you can't do this," or maybe it was her. I think it was her minion, her humble woman servant, right? Was like, "No, you can't do that," or something. But it was pretty funny. It was pretty good, for something that's in black and white. The lack of color bothers me, but it was pretty good, and so I think I would actually like reading the manga. Kobe's character design actually changed before the time skip, so it's probably a couple of months of time since we first saw him. You're not alone on no one believing Kobe could change that much in that amount of time. Yeah, it's just that I think is the only deducible retcon we have, I believe. You might even call it a continuity error, or you could call it a plot hole if you want to. I don't give a shit. I like the current Kobe character. I don't want that little tiny boy that we saw in the first episode. I don't need that. But like, it is a continuity error. It is a plot hole. Unless he took the grow up fruit or some shit, which we think is already committed to somebody else. Some version of it anyway. Or he took steroids. My headcanon is he took steroids. But it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. But we don't give a shit. Because it's good enough. It's good enough, right? So, we like to change. I think, I don't know though how this would play if episode 1 has him looking like a chiseled 16-year-old. And maybe not even chiseled. He could be 16-year-old, maybe he's a little overweight, or maybe he's skinny, and he's nerdy, and he has no confidence. And you could say that his size representation in the show was metaphorical. What we saw I think it was like 5 episodes he was on, and then he went to the Marines. I think you could say that's metaphorical. It's to represent his personality, not his actual physical condition at that time. We could say it's like perception. It's like I saw an anime once where everybody was an animal. It turns out they were actually just human beings. But we saw animals because that's what the main character saw, right? So it's metaphorical. So anime can be metaphorical. So you could say, metaphorically, he is that small size because that's the way his personality is. He was beaten down. He had no confidence. He wouldn't stand up for himself. He was scared of everything. And then Luffy gave him the confidence to stand up for himself, and he increased in size. The only reason that doesn't work is we should have seen him be bigger at the final scene. You do everything the same way, except the final scene you see him walking to the Marines, and all of a sudden he's bigger. And so it's a physical representation of his personality, which we've seen a million times in anime. Even the Apothecary Diaries, she is a cat, and she sees somebody as a dog, so he's got a dog tail, she has a cat tail, she has cat ears. It's metaphorical. She doesn't actually have a cat tail. We're trying to give you insight on the personality or the particular mood they are in that moment, right? When they get chibly, there's a million ways that anime does that. Sometimes they'll have some domestic violence where somebody caves in somebody's skull and just brutally murders them, and in the next scene they're talking like nothing happened. Well, they were angry, and them caving in their skull with a frying pan was just metaphorical to their anger. It's like to show you what they're thinking or how they feel. It's not literal. The images are not always literal in anime. I'm preaching to the choir here. You guys know this. But you could say that, except I think for that to work, you need to see him be bigger that very last scene. And I'm sure if he could do it over again, that's exactly what he would do. Because I think it's metaphorical. Because if we saw him, maybe it's like you could do him as I don't know what his actual age is supposed to be, but say make him whatever his current height is, because he's definitely taller, and his face is less soft. Maybe you can make his face soft. Just make him taller, man. That's the biggest problem. Make him taller, and everything else can be the same. But I don't know how that would play versus how this played. Because this was a perfect embodiment of his personality at the time. And now his current physique is a perfect embodiment of his personality now. But, it's different. It's changed. So, I think it's a continuity error, but it's one of those ones. It's the only one we can tell for sure. Now, I know that, the Warlords are a thing he retconned. But you can't know that just watching the show. There's no way to know that. That's not discernible. Now, behind the scenes, you can find it out. Oh, that's cool information. Wow, that's pretty cool. There's no way to find that out, right? Unless you get into the actual behind the scenes shit. Here, you don't have to go anything but the actual show itself, and you know that this was a retcon. 100%. And I think that's the only time in the entire series that happens. I can't think of another example where maybe they said, just saw your mom the other day, Luffy, and now it's like he never met his mom. I saw you and your mom walking at the beach the other day. That was the very first episode. And then later he decides that Luffy never met his mom. That would be a discernible continuity error. Discernible retcon. We don't have any of that as far as I know. This, with Colby, is the only time we ever have it, I believe. And it was the first goddamn episode. That's a pretty damn good track record, I gotta say. And this one with Thunderstone, this is actually something I knew, but I had forgotten about it until he reminded me. In the manga, it doesn't start the same as the anime. The first chapter is the Luffy Shanks flashback. So if Oda really wanted to mirror the first chapter, the final chapter would be Luffy giving back the Straw Hat to Shanks. I get that. But at this point, here's an interesting question for you. Has the anime overshadowed the manga, in your opinion? Is the anime bigger than the manga? If we look at the fan bases, the relative fan bases, I would almost bet money that the anime probably has millions more fans than the manga does. There are millions more people watching the anime who will never read the manga. So sheer numbers, I think the anime has overshadowed the manga. Also, even if it hasn't, the showrunners can still decide to do their own bookend. Oda can do whatever he wants to do for his manga. But they can do that. But then again, like you still have, for instance, for this to work, you have to have Zoro stay alive, right? So that's not something the anime can change. If the manga kills Zoro, he can't be in the final scene. So I don't know. I don't know if this is workable because of this. I forgot about this when I was talking about that. But I think it's at least possible. I would love to see it. Ariel. As far as kids and nutrition, I think they're pretty resilient, or whatever you would call it. Like for toddlers, who tend to be the pickiest, you generally shouldn't worry too much as long as they're eating something. I'm not a biologist. I would think you need, garbage in, garbage out. But yeah, I'm going to trust a mother over my own uneducated, undoctor PhD opinion. But something about that doesn't track. But also we're being a little hyperbolic. They don't say they only want to eat chicken tenders. I'm sure they eventually eat something else, right? It can't just be that. I would think. I don't know. And I don't know if kids have the craving what you need instinct, but it is still important for them to have a variety of healthy choices available. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying as well. Just have it available sooner or later, so they don't die of rabbit poisoning. They will actually eat something besides chicken tenders, right? And as they get older, perhaps forcibly made to eat the healthier things. God damn, now I'm imagining you forcing Brussels sprouts down their throat. Jesus. That was a bad image. Got the plunger. You will eat these goddamn Brussels sprouts. I fucking hated Brussels sprouts. I hated spinach too. I hated most of the greens. Yeah. Brussels sprouts, spinach, cauliflower, all that shit, man. Get that shit out of my face. Green beans and corn were good. I would definitely eat those. Yeah, get the rest of that shit out of my face. Healthier things rather than the junk they would if left to their own devices. The next couple are from Kill Code. From what I know, Arabiki sausage is probably the most common sausage used for bentos in Japan. Arabiki, I'm definitely intrigued. It's a tiny pork sausage with a snappy casing. Boy, that sounds delicious. I remember as a kid always looking forward to my mom would cut it for bentos. It was usually just regular hot dogs, but it was still pretty good. No, there's a big difference between Arabiki sausage and hot dogs, I assume. I hope Arabiki sausage is not just the Japanese word for hot dogs. Give me a little something. I even like Vienna sausage, by the way, which is the spam of the sausage family. It shouldn't even be called sausage, but I still like it. I mean, that's just what they scrape off the butcher room floor, man. Pack it up, shove it into the. If it's too nasty for Spam, they'll put it in the Vienna sausage, right? But yeah, garbage gut. I like it. Though Spam is a delicacy here. Oh, the fuck did I just read? Spam is a delicacy here in Hawaii, so I don't know how valid that opinion would be to you. Oh my god. I thought Hawaiian food was good. Like roast pork and pineapples, that sounds pretty goddamn good, man. Although I don't like the cooked pineapples. I like cold pineapples, right? So I don't know about like, I used to get that in school. They'd have a slice of ham with one pineapple on top of it. If you're really lucky, they put a cherry in the middle of the pineapple hole, right? That was supposed to be I guess, our Hawaiian lunch or whatever. But what else did they serve there in Hawaii? Spam musubi. They have actual recipes with spam. Kalua pork. I think that may be what I'm thinking of. Kalua pork. Hulu hulu chicken. Hmm. Maybe it's chicken that's got the hula hoops around it. No, I don't know. Garlic shrimp. That sounds great. Plate lunch. Whatever the fuck that is. Luau stew. I think I saw that on an episode of Survivor. Luau luau or lao lao. Pasteless. What the hell is pasteless? Mac and cheese pancakes. I'm done, man. I'm done. Like I can't look at this anymore. I'm not making fun of your culture, but you know what I can't do is mac and cheese pancakes. I thought potato pancakes were bad. Jesus. I'm sure I would like the food. I always wanted to go to Hawaii. It probably never happened. I'm not good with flying anymore, but I used to fly all the time. It's just not good with that anymore. So probably will never happen until they get that bridge to Hawaii that we saw in BoJack Horseman. Until that happens, I'm probably not getting there. It's interesting that you can really tell when JoJo settled into its own style. After the first two parts were very heavily inspired by the other 80s action manga at the time, which was in turn inspired by the 80s macho American action heroes. I can see that. Even part three was still in the unbelievably huge muscles era. Yeah, those people were jacked. Ridiculously jacked. I think the iconic JoJo style was fully cemented in part four. I agree. It could have something to do with the cultural climate of the 90s and or the author. His love of fashion world being more prominent than ever, which was reflected greatly in the designs and physiques of the characters going forward. Yeah, they just have more realistic physiques, and the clothes and hair are more interesting than they've been in the past. So you don't need muscles to stand out. You can just use crazy ass hair and makeup and clothes and shit. Fashion. So that does make a lot of sense. And a lot of things really find their stride in the second or third incarnation. The X Files. The first season of X Files for me is almost unwatchable. The first season of Star Trek Next Generation is unwatchable. Probably the second season as well. So some of these things just take a while to get in stride. And once they do, we only remember how it was after the fact. When people think of Star Trek Next Generation, they only think of third season to seventh season and in the movies. That's all. They don't think about the first two seasons. Tasha Yar, maybe they think of her. Well, I remember when she came back in Yesterday's Enterprise, and she was a ramen or whatever, and then just disappeared again. But I bet if people, especially if they've been reading JoJo from the beginning, they don't even remember the first two seasons, the first two parts. It's wild how that works. Where I'm experiencing in chronological order, and the shit is still fresh in my mind. I still remember pretty clearly seasons 1 and 2. So it is wild how that works. Alright, we're back to Hunter Stone. If I had to choose 3 great anime pilots, I think one of them has to be Love is War. It was great. I should do a rewatch of that. It's been several years now since I've seen that series. With all the spare time I have, I'll get around to that. But that is a fantastic pilot. It really set the tone, and everything it promises it in the pilot, the show delivers on later, which is very important to do, right? So I think The only thing we didn't get was the weird fourth member of the council. Was he the treasurer? I can't remember. We didn't really get him until halfway through season 1, I think. So that's the only thing we didn't really get foreshadowing on or any kind of promise on. And then later, I think even in the third season, there was another person added in, but the younger woman. But as far as people who were important in season 1, he's the only one I don't think appeared in the pilot. So then 2 more I think are great is Beastars and Promised Neverland. I think I've heard you talk about Beastars before. I don't know. I guess I'm just imagining, a bunch of animals playing basketball, which I think was the premise of Space Jam, wasn't it? Also, that reminds me that in the 80s, they would have Animal Olympics or whatever it was called, which was various cartoon characters competing in the Olympics against each other. So that's what Beastars makes me think of. Promised Neverland, I assume, has something to do with Peter Pan. He made a promise, I guess. I'm really surprised that you haven't been made to watch Promised Neverland. I think it's right up your alley. I think you should put Miggy and Dally on your pilot ranking. Yeah, that's right. I did watch that pilot. To remind you, that's the one I made you watch about the twins being adopted, that they're trying to act as one person. Let's go ahead and do that here, and then also I'll rank, what the hell were my pilot rankings? Guess I need to open up that file. Also need to do the summer Haruka died and then prison school. Here's the thing. I don't think I can appropriately rank these in the number system the way I did the others because I haven't seen the whole series. I was judging these pilots based on the fact I've seen the whole series and how well did these pilots. I know I said when I was doing this that you're trying to rank them just as an episode. But it's impossible not to factor in what it promised versus what it delivered. Like, that is a factor. But I can still tell you, I guess I can tell you, do we understand the conflict? Well, I don't know. What I think is a conflict at the end of the first episode of Miggy and Dahlia may not actually be the conflict, right? It may not be clear in the first episode. So, yeah, I think it's really hard to do that. So what I'm going to do is... these 3 episodes, we've got Prison School, we've got the summer Hiroka died, and then we've got Miggy and Dalla. Just how well they stand out. For instance, Miggy and Dalla is the one I watched quite a while ago, several months ago. It still stands out to me. I still remember quite a bit of it. I remember how they unspooled the information. The fact that I didn't watch the credit sequence, I think, really helped. Because at first I just didn't understand what the hell was going on, And it shows how weird the characters are, and it basically sets up in the fact that they planned everything from the beginning to, they even had the water. Like, you gotta believe it's ready just because they have a hose. I just still don't believe that. That's crap. But, it's funny that they tried. So, it's a very good pilot. It really stands out in my mind. So, I would just rank it, arbitrarily. If we're just ranking it out of 10. Which is not how I did the other one, but still. Just if we're talking about arbitrary ranks, I would say it's a good 9 out of 10 pilot. It's a really strong pilot. But, then you would adjust that grade when you watch the whole series. For the summer Haruka died, it's a really strong pilot. I don't know how many characters are going to be important in this series, but they only really focus on 2. The magic fairy demon ghost, whatever, alien. And then you got, our protagonist. His sister, she may be vital to the series for all I know, but she didn't even get a line of dialogue. She wasn't even conscious for this episode. The only shot we get of her, she's asleep. We do get an idea of his home life, like his parents are fighting and shit. That's really cool. So, they establish the characters, they establish the conflict, they establish the goal, and you even establish an overall threat for the season, which is this organization that's going to try to find the alien and kill him, right? So it's very good. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I think, and again, this is without knowing how the rest of the series plays out, right? So it's hard to judge it. For instance, if the sister is very important, I'd say they did a shitty job establishing her in a pilot. If she's not important, then they didn't, right? And I have no idea which one it is, right? So, that's hard to judge. Then as far as prison school, I think it perfectly, as far as I know, is assuming that the series, keeps the promise that they established in the pilot. I think they really established like what the tone of the series is, the level of seriousness with which we should take it, who the characters are, clearly defined, and then you've got all kinds of conflict. Like he's already lying to the girl, and he actually has real feelings for her. And then you've got it has a great cliffhanger. I'm not real wild about ending the pilot episode on a cliffhanger. I think it should be a self-contained story that really sets like yeah. There's an overall cliffhanger at the end of Summer. Haruka died because you have this organization that's going to try to kill the monster. Then what the hell does the monster? What is his motivations? What is that about? How did the Haruka die? All that, right? Like, so you have the overriding. You have things that make you want to watch the next episode. But Prison School has a very clear cliffhanger. He just fell on top of this girl, and she's a savage. It can go a lot of ways. Maybe she starts to have feelings for him. They talk in private. In this instance, it's kind of like, the Back to the Future. He falls from the tree, and that gets him in with the girl, right? Or maybe that puts him on her shit list, and she's going to be worse with him than she has with anybody else. There is the fact that he was the only one that didn't get his ass beat that first time. I think they're playing favorites with this guy. So there's a lot of ways it could go with this. We don't really know. And this is kind of direct cliffhanger that if I wait a month to watch it, it's not going to have the same impact as if I watched it today. Right? So I don't think it's a good choice to end the first episode on a cliffhanger like this. Even though you're probably telling a 12-episode serialized story. It's basically a 12-episode movie is what I think Prison School is going to be because it's a 12-episode first season, right? Whereas, the Summer Haruka died could be more episodic. Like, it wouldn't really function very well as a movie, but it functions very well as a series because you have a bunch of episodic stories that together form the whole story. Whereas opposed to, like, for instance, the Chainsaw Man movie I'm currently watching, I'm seeing part of it now, it's a story arc from the manga, but it's one coherent story. Rather than just episodes. Season 1 was episodic. There was this happening, that happening. They're related to each other, and you have a through line, and you have character growth and a seasonal arc, but they are episodic. It's individual stories. So this movie, I don't think would have worked as a season of TV as well. You would have to somehow break it up episodically, or it's a long serialized story, right? So, maybe Prison School is going to be basically a movie. Like, that's just the way the manga went. It's just one continuous story. There's no real breaks. There's no real episodics. We don't know. But if I was to rank Prison School, I think it's a very strong pilot. It's a 9. The only reason it's not a 10 is because you ended on a cliffhanger, which I think is a mistake. But yeah, so like that's really my thoughts on those things. But I think you can only truly judge a pilot for sure after having seen the series. And that's the case with all these others. Although some of them, I don't think you can even do that, really. Like, One Piece is so long that the pilot is such a minuscule part of the overall story. Such a small speck that at that point you just have to judge it on its own terms. Like, so many characters who are going to be so important are not even within 100 episodes of being introduced yet, right? So, like, there are exceptions. There are exceptions to this. I don't think you just have one ironclad rule in how you judge pilots when it comes to anime. You have to have categories, right? One Piece and Naruto and maybe Bleach, I think, are in categories of their own, just because they're such long stories. And then you get something like Monster, which was a pretty tight pilot. It probably should have been on my list. And it's only like a 70, 75, 80 episode, or if even, maybe it's 65. It wasn't a very long series, right? Super episodic, but the pilot episode really established everything very well, and it even established the characters. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the pilots. This is Marakoye. The next 5, 6, 7, 8, next 8 comments are from Marakoye. Excellent. He didn't get in last time, so he made up for it this time. When I was in college, they had served this burger hot dog, and they had put ketchup and mustard, both of which I never got. Lettuce, tomato, and most importantly, French fries. Well, I definitely get mustard. I mean, I don't know why you hate on mustard. I don't like tomatoes. Lettuce on the hot dog. think I've had that a couple times. I just don't think a burger hot dog is the way to go. I guess because I like mustard. I'm surprised they didn't put onions on that. By the way, onions are very popular in hamburgers here in America. Maybe not in other places, but in America they're very popular. But yeah, man, the French fries on it. Now I saw that. What was the fucking movie? Was it James Woods as a cop? It was him, and there was a black guy who was an actor who wanted to. He was going to be in a movie about a cop, and so I think it was James Woods. I could be wrong, but it was somebody like James Woods. Was a New York City cop who was trying to solve a crime. I think his partner had been shot, so he's trying to find out who shot his partner and bring him to justice. Meanwhile, this celebrity actor who was a black guy, so this is like a buddy cop movie. He's a black guy, is an actor, and he wanted to follow a New York homicide cop around so he could learn how to be a cop. And this movie probably came out in the 90s. I have no idea. Maybe it wasn't James Woods. It may have been somebody. It was a dude. It was like discount James Woods. It was like probably a character. Now, the more I think about it, the less I think it was James Woods. But he was that kind of guy, right? That guy. At the time, would have been in his late 40s. You had seen him in other movies. Rough and tumble kind of guy. Skinny, tall. You know, that kind of guy. And I have no idea who played the actor. But anyway, so he was following the homicide cop around. And the homicide cop wants nothing to do with it. He's forced by his bosses because the celebrity picked this one cop. I want this guy. I want to learn from this guy. And he wanted to just solve his partner's murder. He didn't give a shit about some celebrity actor trying to learn from him. So the first thing he does is he takes him out and he shows the actor how he interrogates a snitch. Then he goes to a hot dog stand and he orders 2 sausage dogs, foot-long sausage dogs, and I forget what kind of bread it was. I think it could have been pretzel bread. It was something elaborate. And then a bunch of French fries on top. And then I think it may have been like oil and vinegar and some spices and stuff like that. And then he said, here, you have one and I have one, and this is what I eat every day for lunch and everything. And it looked really good. The presentation of this New York City street vendor hot dog, foot-long hot dog, the French fries on top, and they ate it, and the celebrity actor was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! I've never had anything like that." I've never tried it. That always made me want to get a sausage dog with French fries on it, and there was some other shit on top of it, right? And that always made. But then, like, of course, the cop was like, "Okay, I showed you how to interrogate a prisoner. I've taught you how cops eat. Now, fuck off. I need to go solve my crime." And of course, he sticks with him, helps him solve the crime, gets shot. I think the cop gets shot, and he thinks he's going to die. And then, so you got the actress like, "Oh, I don't want you to die." And they've been through this whole adventure. It's a great movie. Maybe not great, but for the time period, now it'd probably be problematic as hell, right? Like, I'm sure that God knows what was in this movie. In the 90s, it seemed fine. But I enjoyed the movie. And I like how they did this, where at the end, he thinks the cop's going to die. The cop's been shot. He's like, don't leave me. I don't want you to die, and all this shit. And all of a sudden, they transition to the movie that he was like preparing for, and he shot the movie. And it's the exact same scene. And then his character is his character is a cop that's been shot now, rather than him being the actor. And then he had some young rookie with him that he had been in the movie, had been training. And so he's giving the same dialogue to the rookie in the movie that the cop had been giving him in real life, right? And so that's the movie, and then they get out of the movie, and of course, that's when they reveal the cop is still alive. He recovered. I think he could have been bandaged. I can't remember, but he recovered. And he tells him, he's like, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen," or something like that. That's what I remember the movie. But the thing that stands out the most is that sausage dog with the French fries on top. Man, it looked amazing. So yeah, give me that. But like the rest of that shit, you can keep the lettuce and tomato, and you're a hater for the mustard. And we both agree, no ketchup. So I think we're pretty much on the same page, except if it's going to be a hamburger dog, then they should definitely get onions on there. Also, maybe they're not trying to emulate America, because I'm sure their hamburgers in other parts of the world. But an American hamburger pretty much has cheese on it. In fact, I don't remember where I saw this. It could have been a meme. It could have been some social media tweet or skeet or something. But they said, or it could have been a podcast I was listening to. Maybe I listen to a lot of previous podcasts right now. Maybe it's a podcast. They said the person who invented the hamburger was smart. The person who thought up putting cheese on the hamburger was a fucking genius. You made it perfect then. It used to be good. The hamburger used to be good. When you decided to put cheese on that sumbitch, that's when you made it perfect. So, an American hamburger has cheese on it. That's just what we do. Like, if you ain't getting a cheeseburger, what the fuck are you doing with your life, man? Like, what is happening? Especially the kind of cheese that melts on the patty, man. Melt that shit on the patty. Don't just put some cold slice of cheese on top of the lukewarm meat where maybe it softens up a little bit and that's it. No, melt that shit on the patty. Then you got you a for real American hamburger, right? So technically this should have cheese on it as well. Maybe if you really know what you're doing, you put the cheese on top of the fries to lock that shit in. None of those fries fall off when you eat it, right? That's when you really got something. What I hate about restaurant sushi is how expensive it is. Yeah, I hate that about any restaurant food. It's too fucking expensive. We live in a world where people think it's normal to pay $20 for a shrimp cocktail. It'll be like 8 shrimp and this much cocktail sauce. And goddamn it, man, look, I can go to Food Lion right now. Now, I use my membership card, and so I wait until shit's on sale, but they'll have like and I do this, right? The freezer section will have a bag of shrimp. Now, it comes in different sizes. You can get like 25 to 30 pieces of shrimp if they're large. You get 60 if they're, or I think like 40 or 50 if they're medium, and then 60 to 75 if they're small, right? So it depends on the size. But they have all 3 kinds. And then every week, one of them will be buy one, get one free. And usually they're like 12 to 14 bucks for one bag. So I wait till they buy one, get one free, and I get one bag for $6 to $7 because they're buy one, get one free, so it's half off. Then I go over to the sauce rack at the back of the store, and I can get a Food Lion brand, which is a generic version of cocktail sauce that's about this fucking big. You can get 4 bags of shrimp dipping into this thing before it's got done. It's like this. It's the size of a ketchup bottle for $2. So $9. I got me a big ass shrimp cocktail. Like even with the big shrimp, which is usually what you get for a shrimp cocktail in a restaurant, 30 of them joints are in there. 25 to 30 of them are in that bag for $7. If you get on sale, even if you get a bust out retail, 14 bucks. $2 for the shrimp cocktail. That's $16. These restaurants are charging $20 fucking dollars for this much cocktail sauce and 8 shrimp. Kiss my ass. Restaurant prices are bullshit. Now, I can understand if you have to cook the shit. Okay? So say we're doing a steak. Now, if you're gonna buy the steak, maybe the steak is 15 bucks. If it's a 16 cut or whatever. That may be, I don't know. I don't really buy steak, so I don't know the current price. I know that like 4 hamburger patties that are like half-pound hamburger patties are probably like 8 to 10 bucks. So I assume a steak is about 15, 20 bucks, right? So say a 16 ounce is 15, 20 bucks. All right. But they're putting sauces on it, like a soy sauce or a teriyaki sauce or whatever, some other kind of stuff. They're tenderizing it maybe. You're putting spices on it. Garlic and garlic salt and pepper and oregano and God knows what other kind of spices on it. And you're applying it at exactly the right time. You're cooking it in butter maybe, right? And so first of all, you marinate the steak to get the right flavor. Then you cook it and you're putting shit on it as you cook it. And you're meticulously getting it at just the right temperature for just the right amount of time. And you're making sure both sides are even and all that shit. So there's a skill set involved in cooking a really good steak. Like you're going to get shoe leather if you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And it's just going to taste like just meat if you don't know how to spice that shit and marinate and all the other kind of shit you can do to it. So it's not just the $20 for a steak. We're probably talking about $2 to $3 for the spices and oils and sauces and all this butter and all this other shit. Then the expertise of the person doing it and their time, right? And then that's not even counting the shit that goes around it. Like, maybe you get some russet potatoes or some kind of like asparagus or some shit. So that I understand charging. Maybe you charge $60 for that. Now, personally, I think that's out fucking outrageous. But I get it. You're not. It's not like I can go to the store and duplicate that. I can go to the fucking store and duplicate a shrimp cocktail. Hey, I do it fucking once, at least once a month. When I get those big boys are on buy one get one free, boom. And by the way, remember I said one bottle of cocktail sauce will last 4 bags. That's a hell of a lot of cocktail sauce. So that's basically 50 cents. And eight of the shrimp out of the bag of 25, like I said, the markup of shrimp cocktails when there is no expertise involved. Lest we forget, they cut up a fucking lemon. So maybe we get, what is lemons? 30, maybe it's $1 a pound, but you get like 3 lemons for a pound, right? Okay, and then you cut that up 4 ways and put 2 slices of shrimp cut. Oh my god, boy, that really increased the price, didn't it? That's some marked up bullshit. So it depends. Like I'm sure sushi with the raw materials and then the expertise, we can't duplicate that at home. But if we can duplicate it at home, a fucking a submarine sandwich, I'm not paying much more than $10 for a submarine sandwich because I can do that shit at home, and I do that shit at home. So when I eat out, I'm trying to get something I can't make at home, either skill wise or price wise. Because that's another thing too, right? Say I want one cheeseburger, but you have to buy 4 patties, and you have to buy 8 buns, and then you have to buy cheese and onions and pickles and all this other crap, right? So if you just want one, it is actually more economical just to go to a restaurant, even if it's fast food. Anyway, you're just talking about sushi, so sushi is supposed to be cheap. Oh, really? So it's it used to be low class food, huh? It's literally just seaweed, rice, and filling. I like to put cucumber. I actually do like cucumbers, so agreed there. Now, of course, there is technique, but that's something you can improve over time. Yeah, but I ain't trying to learn that shit. I'll take your word for it. It doesn't sound like the ingredients would set you back that far. Although buying seaweed around here would probably be difficult. But the learning curve is probably a bitch. If I'm not mistaken, sushi is originally a poor man's food, and now it has become expensive. Yeah, it's crazy how that happens too, right? Like you get some rich motherfucker going through a poor neighborhood. Like, what are they doing over there? I guess I'll try this out. What is it? $1? Okay, whatever. I'll give them $3. I don't care. Oh my god, damn! If we increase the ingredients, I could probably do that in my store, right? That kind of shit. That's probably how it happens, right? But trying to think if there's any American food that has happened to. Pasta is basically poor man's food. I eat a lot of pasta because I can get 2 pounds of, like, say, angel hair spaghetti for $3, something like that. 2 pounds for $3, and then I wait for it to be on sale. But then the generic pasta sauce, two for the price of one. I get 2 jars of it, which basically is one. For 2 pounds of pasta, you probably need 2 jars. So I get that. So what we're talking about now, we're up to $7. Then I'll get a couple bags of shredded cheese. So now we're up to $11. Onions, fresh onions, I cut up and throw in there. It's $12, maybe 13. And then I put jalapenos in there, so $15. And then every now and then I'll put a meat in there, like some ground sausage, some ground beef, or some link sausages I cut up and fry up and then throw in there, but not always. So I can get 3 days of food. That 2 pounds will last me 3 days. Basically, eat it twice a day for 3 days, right? That 2 pounds will last me for 3 days, and it costs $15. So $5 a day. Pasta is a poor man's food, but some of these restaurants have turned that shit into some gourmet shit, like super gourmet. We're putting snails and mushrooms and elaborate ass sauces, and of course they're gonna hand make the sauce from all these various raw materials and shit, right? And they're gonna charge 30, $40 for that joint, man. Especially when they start talking about lasagna and lasagna, another poor man's food. Let's just throw whatever we have left as leftovers into a pan and shove it in the oven, and we got something, right? Don't have enough pasta sauce left for another 2 pounds of pasta. Let's just put it on this, this bread I threw in the oven, right? I know there's more to lasagna than that, but not much. But man, some of these like actual ass sit down restaurants that we're talking about above, like Olive Garden, whatever the above Olive Garden is, whatever those are called, you might be set back $30, $40 for a pasta meal. Now, if it's Buddha de Becco, you'll be set back that much, but then they give you a garbage can full of food. Like, garbage can lid is what they use to bring the food out. Because there's so much fucking food. It depends on what part of the world you're in, or what part of the country, and you may not know about Buddha de Becco. But the portion sizes. A small will feed a small army for 2 days. A large, you ain't going to eat it all before you die of food poisoning. Like, there's no way for one human being to eat a large, all of it. Maybe over 3 days. But it's just unbelievable, man, like the portion size. But we're not talking about that. The price of that is because of the portion sizes. But some of these places, you'll get like one plate of pasta, and that joint will be like $35, $40. That's an American example, which, came from Italy, of a poor man's food that has been priced out of the poor man's market. So I guess, yeah, that would be the pasta is America's sushi, I guess, in that way. I know you like Rick and Morty. I think I'm about 3 seasons behind at this point. I should get back to that at some point. And a new show on Adult Swim came out called Smiling Friends. Just had a 3rd season. It has really good humor, which is similar to the golden age of Rick and Morty, and the average episode is just around 10 minutes long. And as of right now, there are only 25 episodes total. I think it'd be right up your alley. The basic premise of the show is that these are people who are the smiling friends, and it is their job to go around making people smile. Well, here's the thing. A couple years ago, a patron sponsored the 1st season of Smiling Friends. And I can't remember, I watched the 1st season, I enjoyed it. I can't remember what the fuck I did. I don't know if I put it on one of the channels. Let me look. I don't think it's on this anime channel. Because I think this happened before I really got into the whole anime channel thing. But let me check here. Well, I'm pretty sure it's the kind of thing that I would have put up on Google Drive. Because it was like one of those like long edit things that YouTube would not let me do. I don't think it was full reactions. No, it is on YouTube. Holy shit. I guess I did them as full reactions. Huh. Well, I guess what I'll do is I'll make this part of my rotation. It's the drunk channel. I'll make this part of my rotation. I'm gonna make one of them active now, and then every week I'll do that, because like episodes 1 through 3, 4 through 6, and 7 and 8. That's the 1st season. The only problem is if I do that, if I make these public, then these fucking people are gonna want me to do the other 2 seasons. I don't know if I have time, but at least I've got 1 season down, right? So I guess it wouldn't be that much time. The episodes are fairly short. Can't believe we got 3 seasons. I thought it was canceled after 1 season, to be honest with you. Yeah, it was back in 2022 when I recorded these. Quite a while ago. But anyway, you're the first person to ever mention this to me. So for you, I will put I'll at least do the 1st season. And if it gets numbers over there, then I will do the other 2. I wonder, I could probably... Maybe I could just upload them to... Let me see if I can find them. Maybe I'll just upload them to the anime channel. Because they are... Let me do a quick search here. Because if I still have the original files, I could just upload them. It was a long time ago. So it's possible I don't. But I've lost some things over the years. Hard drive crash or whatever. Doesn't look like they're around anywhere. Well, tell you what, let me do some more research on this. Maybe I can find them on my other hard drives. But if you don't see season 1 or part of season 1 uploaded in a week, just drop me a comment anywhere in any of my videos and remind me, and I'll get back to it. It's been so long. I just remember the animation was kind of crazy. It kind of reminded me of Aqua Teen Hunger Force. The animation was kind of whack, in a good way. But that's about all I remember of it at this point. Can't believe they did 2 more seasons. I never heard anything about that. All right. Recently started going through your Naruto reactions. I only ever got to the start of Shippuden, and now I'm able to get through the end of Boruto. Hey, we're not at the end of Boruto yet. You never know what could happen. I could be hit by an ice cream truck tomorrow. We never know. But we're getting there. We're pretty far into Boruto. I have a long journey ahead of me. It'll be fun. It was fun. Probably, Naruto and One Piece are such different experiences. I enjoy One Piece more, but I think Naruto is more fun, if that makes any sense. Because there's no real overriding mysteries. There's no mystery box shit. There's no, well, will we ever get the conclusion? So there's no anxiety. There's none of that anxiety. So I had more fun with Naruto. I'm having a lot of fun with Boruto. There's only one person that wants me to watch Boruto. You'll make number two. One person wants me to watch it. It's not economical for me to spend 5 to 10 hours a month on something only one person wants. I mean, this person isn't even they're not like on tier 5 or something. If you're on tier 5, that's different. But I just do it because, and my point is, it's not economically feasible for me to do this. Because this person spends $8 a month and I'm spending 10 hours a month. So that's less than $1 an hour, right? It's not economically feasible for me to do it. The reason I do it is because I enjoy the show. If I didn't enjoy the show, if I wasn't having so much fun with Boruto, I wouldn't watch it. One person's not enough. You'll make two. So that'll make it a little bit better for me. But I do it because I like it. I enjoy it. Now, if nobody was watching it, if it was that even that one person wasn't watching it, it wouldn't be viable for me to do it because what the hell am I doing it for? I owe my time to people who are going to watch my shit. But as long as one person's watching it and I enjoy it, I'm going to stick with it. So there we go, right? You talked about this last episode as well, but if you're going to take a break from One Piece, I think when they go on hiatus is a good stopping point. I agree. When is that happening? It's happening in January, isn't it? It looks like I just downloaded. This is Monday, December 15th. I'm recording this. Yesterday, I downloaded episode 1153. I think it was. I haven't seen it yet. I still need to do the damn rewind for the previous episode. That's the holdup. But they said when I downloaded there is at least one more episode coming, which is on the 22nd, I think. So we're getting at least one more. And at some point, we're getting a hiatus soon. And once that happens, I'm taking a hiatus as well. We'll see. When it comes back, maybe I'll be like, oh my God, I missed the show so much, I got to have it. Anything's possible, right? Never say never again. That's what Sean Connery believes, and I believe it too. Basically, the Nami we get pre-Sanji. Okay, so this is where he's explaining why he likes pre-Sanji Nami. The Nami we get pre-Sanji is Nami being mysterious and independent. This is Nami when she is friendly to the crew, but before she betrays them. Quote, air quotes. Which happens right after Sanji's arc because then we get into Nami's arc. The Nami we get is filled with foreshadowing and more evil and self-centered than the Nami we get afterwards. In the Buggy arc, Nami is going to steal the money from the entire town that got destroyed. But Luffy gave them half without her knowing. Whereas once Sanji gets involved, Nami becomes more of the bossy girl of the crew, the mom, in other words. I still like her character afterwards, but the pre-Sanji arc era is just really special to me. I totally understand what you're saying, and I agree as far as that goes. I just like mother hen Nami, but this is just has anybody gotten better character growth than her? Because you perfectly described where she started. Now look where she is now. That is character growth. The Nami that we first met in the first episode would never be the treasurer of a crew. And to be honest, now she can be stingy, but she does give them an allowance. And I don't think she's skimming. I don't think she's skimming from the pot. I think she's very honest about everything. She holds back a lot for the purposes of later because she thinks ahead. And I'm sure she buys herself nice things. But, I just don't think... See, all her greed was about helping her hometown, right? Every dollar went to that. So she didn't care who she fucked over. She'd fuck over anybody and everybody because she's trying to save people she loves, people she grew up with. That pressure is not on her now. So now basically her greediness is a comedic thing. It's not a really character driving force. But has anybody had more character growth? Like Luffy's, he's become more powerful, but he's still the same person. He's the same person right now as he was in the very first episode. He's just more powerful. Not even the trauma of losing Ace has changed him. I thought it would, but it didn't. I thought he'd take fights more seriously. He doesn't. He's still silly. He was pretending he was a baseball player a couple episodes ago. He created a baseball bat out of nothing. Like, he's silly. Things are just not that serious. He doesn't take anything seriously. So, he's the same person. Sanji is the same person. He didn't get any character development from the experience with his family. None. The almost getting married and being betrayed by the person he almost married. No character growth. He's still the same person. Now, everybody they got upgrades during the time skip, but it didn't affect them emotionally for the most part. I don't think. They got upgrades that they're better fighters. They have better equipment. They have different bodies, maybe in Frankie's case, different costumes, different hairdos or whatever. But character-wise, who they were in the pilot or when we first met them versus who they are now in the most recent episode, I think only Nami has changed. She has clearly changed dramatically. Everybody else is the same. Brooke isn't less of a tryhard now that he's had several years of having friends. He'll never be alone again, but that hasn't really affected him. Maybe Zoro's had a little character growth. I think in the first couple hundred episodes, all he cared about was being the best fighter, and you would assume he's going to leave the crew at some point to go pursue that. Now, I think he's in it for the crew. Yeah, I mean, he ultimately, maybe when you find a One Piece and then he can go off on his own, he'll be back to, like, I want to be the best fighter in the world. But that doesn't seem to be a driving force. Now he's about being faithful to the crew, being faithful to his captain. That's what matters to him the most. Protecting his family, which is the crew. So that has changed a little bit. Usopp is still the same scared bitch he was before, even though he shouldn't be, and I've talked about that at length. He should not be. He should have character growth, and he doesn't. So, Nami's the only one who's actually experienced character growth, now that I think about it. That's crazy. Her, of all people. But she has, demonstratively, I think that's interesting. But anybody that prefers the early version of her, she was the most intriguing part of the series. She's what kept me watching early on because it was so interesting. Who is this person? What is she doing? Why? She's well put together. She's got a plan for everything. She's scheming in the background. I loved all that, man. She was the most intriguing part of I remember when I first watched this. That's how I felt. In addition to the other comment, it reminds me a lot of how Robin was between when she first joined and Water 7 when she had the whole CP9 stuff. So basically the post-Alabaster filler. Jaya, Skypiea, and then the post-Skypiea filler when Robin is undercover thinking 3 steps ahead of everyone. Robin was a lot more independent and self-centered back then. And I think of all the crew members, she has had the most linear character development. From the pre-Water 7 stuff to Thriller Bark, when she refuses to be silly, to Punk Hazard, where you can start seeing her be more silly and Straw Hat-like, to Wano, where she's making funny faces and everything. My favorite Robin is also the Robin pre-Water 7, but post-Alabaster. That is an interesting read on her character. You notice I didn't mention her name when I was just talking. I've seen no change in her. I'm going to take your word for it. I haven't noticed anything you're talking about here. I haven't noticed silly faces. I haven't noticed refusal to be silly. The only thing I remember about her is she laughs at Luffy because she thinks he's hilarious. And that seems pretty consistent as far as I remember. She's constantly laughing. It's not a large laugh. It's just a little chuckle. She thinks he's hilarious and cute, But other than that, I haven't noticed anything you're talking about. And I will say she's had almost no character development or no screen time even in hundreds of episodes. It's like the author is bored with her. We rarely see her use her powers. She had more to do in the most recent movie I saw, which I think was Red. Or maybe I saw one more after that. I can't remember. Yeah, maybe one more after that. It was that crazy-ass island where Nami was captured or kidnapped or whatever. I think I saw that after Red. Yeah, so Robin had more to do that than she has in the last 3 or 4 episodes. She had a major fight that was off screen, and that happened in the manga too. Like, the author is bored with her. So since, I'd say going into Wano, the amount of dialogue she's had could probably fill 3 or 4 total episodes at most. She's had very little to say. She's had very little impact on the plot. She's done very little in fighting. She had a decent fight in Wano. I'm not taking that away from her. That was pretty good. And that, and nothing in this current arc has she done that I can think of. And her one fight happened on screen. So, to me, she's getting nothing on screen. So, I'm going to take your word for this. But I just haven't noticed. She hasn't really been on my radar. Still, Madakoye, this is his last comment. Are you still considering watching season 2 of the One Piece live action? I think it's supposed to come out quite soon. Let me actually look that up. It's going to premiere March 10th. Interesting. Well, I'm currently doing From, which has 3 seasons, 30 episodes. The goal is to be ready to premiere that the first week in January. Probably not going to happen. So far, I've only got 3 of the 10 episodes full reactions exported. I've recorded a whole season. I've only edited the first episode. I don't see having time this week. I've got so many movies to do. I've got 4 movies for Eric. I'm doing at least 2 or 3 this week. I need to do It Chapter 2. I have to do Tiger King, the documentary on Netflix. I have to start Treem. And then there's all the weekly shit I'm doing. All that shit I just said I'm trying to do this week. So there will be no editing from this week. And then next week is the last full week of the month. Maybe I can do something then. I'm not sure. Especially if I get a lot of the shit I have to do done this week. So probably the second or third week in January, I'll be ready to premiere From. Because I'm not going to premiere it until I have all the episodes edited. That way I can't possibly get behind. So after I do the 30 episodes of From, I'm going to do the 2 seasons of One Piece. So let me see. The plan is to do 2 episodes a week of From. Maybe I'll mix it up. Maybe I'll alternate. 2 episodes a week will be 5 weeks. So that'll get us into late February. Then I could do the first season of One Piece. And then maybe the premiere of the second season would bring a lot of attention to it. So maybe I'll just do the second season of One Piece. I don't want to leave From that long, though. I don't know. We'll see. That's the plan. Maybe I can juggle it somehow. Because I want One Piece to be coming out when the second season premieres, so that'll bring people to my channel. Because, they'll be looking up reactions to the live action, right? Yeah, and also that's a good way for me to stay connected to the One Piece fandom early next year, at least. So, yeah, I think we can pencil in February of next year for me to begin releasing, at least on Patreon. Because, From, anything I get done, I release on Patreon. I'm just not going to release it to regular YouTube until it's all together. So I don't miss weeks and be late for deadlines and all that other shit. So yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I'll at least be having the live action One Piece on Patreon by February. So that's the plan. But yeah, I want to have some at least one live action thing happening on. That's my goal next year. Beyond all the anime, just have one live action thing happening. It may not be every week, but most weeks. Because it's interesting, because there's some of these channels will do these things. I've always been I want to just, if I start a series, I finish the entire goddamn thing in one go, right? And most channels do that. We start Buffy, we're going through every season. But a few channels like V Kuna and a couple other, I think Natalie Gold is her name, I think. A couple of these channels will just do a season and then take a hiatus and then do another season and take a hiatus, right? And so that may be my plan for live action on the anime channel. Do a season straight through, take a little hiatus, a month or 2, and during that time period, you do the entire next season, and then release it, rather than trying to keep up the weekly schedule for 30 straight weeks. That's really hard to do. So I may go to that plan for the anime channel. We'll see how it goes. We also have Fallout coming out tomorrow. I'm also doing Fallout. Now, Season 1 was sponsored. And the person that sponsored it, Mario, already has me doing, I'm finishing up Alice in Borderlands Season 3. I've got to get to that. That's another thing I have to do. And then I'm doing It Chapter 2 and then Welcome to Derry. So he's tied up for a while with the sponsorships. But I'm still going to do Fallout before I can be spoiled on this shit. I'm going to record reactions to it this week. I just won't edit it, right? But I've got to get those reactions because, man, last time I got the shit spoiled out of me on Fallout. Pretty heavily spoiled, man. Like, it was just random shit. So I'm not taking that chance this time. The day it releases, I'm recording at least most of the reactions. Maybe only 8 episodes. I might be able to get that in one day. So that's another thing I'm doing this week. The grind never ends. And I enjoy it. Like, I'd much rather have too much content to do than, damn, what am I going to watch now? Shit, we ain't got nothing, no content, I'd much rather have too much than not enough. So it's a problem of wealth, right, essentially. All right, and Ariel's going to close this up. I think you're right about the Demon Slayer pilot. I'm no writer, nor would I ever want to be. God damn, man. What's wrong with being a writer? Jesus. Stab straight in the back. Man, fuck writers. I would never want to be one of those pieces of shit. God damn. Anyway. But I think what could have made it better and still accomplished the same impact otherwise is instead of the time spent with Tanjiro helping people while he was away from the family, or maybe taking at least some of them away, we could have had a family meal scene or something similar prior to him leaving. Either breakfast or dinner the night before, including conversations and seeing some of the family dynamic and getting to know Nezuka and maybe some of the other members a little bit more so that their deaths and Nezuka's new demon state would affect the audience more than it did. Agree 100%. That's exactly what they should have done. Him staying with the old man, the only purpose of that was so that he wouldn't be around for the attack. Well, you could have done that so much faster. Do the family thing, and you maybe have less of him leaving, because they were trying to cram the entire family into that leaving scene. So that's another place you could have found time, right? So shorten the family's I'm leaving scene. Here's these characters and here's these characters and let's hug and let's talk and now I'm leaving. It wasn't long enough to do what we need, but it was too long if you're going to do it somewhere else. So make that scene 45 seconds long, and that will be, if you're rewatching it, wow, this is the last time he sees him alive. So it'll be impactful. You keep some of it. But just keep enough that we can feel it emotionally. Wow, this is the last time he's going to see him. And that gives you a little bit more family time. Take the rest of that and take most of the shit with him with the old man and make it a family thing. Get together. And probably don't even show him running. They have a cold open where he's running and shit. I guess they got to be exciting. We got to be exciting in the first 2 minutes or they'll stop watching. Fuck that. Take that time too and also give it to the family. Right? And then you can see him running at the end. So basically that spoils the episode anyway. It's just him, those two. So what the hell, right? So that's what I would do. I would. Then you'd have the family shit, and then the goodbye could be just a little bit of bittersweetness. And then we got to explain why he's not there. So okay, I guess I'll stay with you, thanks. And then the next thing we see is him walking in the house, right? He agrees to go with the old man. You see him going to the old man's house. Maybe you show a really quick shot at night just so we can establish, yes, he spent the night at this place. And then that's it. However long it was, shorten it almost to nothing. And then you have time for everything else. And then just show him going back. And then everything else can be the same. That's what I would do. And I think if the author had to do it again, he'd probably do the same thing. Considering how important she is. Again, this is another thing we were talking about with pilot episodes earlier. You can't know it's important for him to spend time with his sister pre-demon until you see at least the first half of the season. Wow, this is really integral to the plot. The first episode even, I didn't know, I knew that, he's going to try to save his sister, but she's actually integral to the plot. She's with him. She's not in a monastery somewhere in a cage until he can figure this out. She is with him on a daily basis. You need that time. We buy that, yes, he cares about his sister, but that means so much more if we'd seen them together. So yeah, I think that would make a lot more sense. And finally, It's an interesting pilot to grade, though I doubt it would score that high other than nailing the characters. Steins Gate. Doing it after having seen it all and knowing what's going to happen and why might make it harder to remember how it felt just seeing that first episode, though. Well, again, like I know I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth. On one hand, I'm saying judge the pilot just on the episode and no other information. On the other hand, I'm saying you can't judge a pilot till you've seen the series. And both things are true. And you want to do both. It's hard to make that separation, though. I don't think it really nailed the characters. I think there was so much plot happening in the pilot. We cover a lot of ground in the pilot. Like, we've got a lot of foreshadowing. We've got timey-wimey shit. Other people don't remember what happened. He's seeing visions. Then he sees this girl get murdered. But then she's still alive. You know, what's this all about, right? So, like, there's so much plot happening. We don't really get a sense of the characters until, let's say, I think I had the characters locked down by the first 4 or 5 episodes. But, you know, we get glimpses of who they are, which is consistent for the rest of the series, but we don't really get a full picture of the characters. We don't really get a full picture of what's happening. It's a good pilot. It's very intriguing. It definitely makes you want to watch more. But I think it's so integral to, it's a serialized thing. I think it's not a pilot that stands on its own, right? So I don't think it would score, you're right, it wouldn't score very high, you know, because it doesn't stand on its own 2 feet. But what does happen is you want to watch the next episode immediately. And that's the goal of any pilot, ultimately. It's like a movie trailer. If it makes you want to watch the movie, then it's done its job, whatever else we can say about it. And this pilot episode made us want to watch the next episode immediately, so it did its job. But I don't think it would be on anybody's top 20 best pilots ever list. You know, I think it's a little too dense, and I don't think you could have made a pilot for a series like this that would be on the top 20 list. I think it would be impossible. They did the best with what they had, I believe. All right, so that's it for the Q&A. I don't have any idea how long this was, but this particular file, which is my, let me see, 4th podcast file so far, is over an hour long. So, Jesus Christ. Time to get to the rest of the podcast. All right, let's get to the anime episode highlights. By the way, I'm going to be retooling all these segments. You know, some of these, like other animation, is probably going to go away. It may be a recurring segment, but it won't be a regular thing, you know. If you have any segment ideas, something you want me to focus on, like maybe you want me to do a character highlight, you know, instead of or in addition to the anime episode highlight, right? Maybe there's my favorite character of the past 2 weeks, or my favorite plot line, or my favorite plot twist, or my favorite fight, or whatever. You know, leave some ideas in the comments, and we'll take it from there. But I'm going to be retooling this. I'm going to be maybe add a couple more segments. Maybe definitely take 1 or 2 segments away, but we'll see how it goes. But for now, we have anime episode highlight, and this is the Apothecary Diaries, episode 24. It's the season finale of season 1. It's remarkable for several things. For one, they didn't do the cliche cliffhanger at the end of the season thing, which is good, and actually treat it like a season finale, which is really good, because anime doesn't. Why have I got this on? I guess because I was just editing. I just edited everything you just saw. So I know we're already like an hour and 40 minutes into this. So I'm not going to let that affect how long I talk. But just, I wanted to go ahead and get that part done. So anyway, anime now has a thing where it's like, used to be you'd just be endless river. 600 straight episodes, series over. No finales, nothing, no season, breaks or nothing like that. Even the shit like Gintama that went away and came back, I bet it's going to be seamless. Although they're so meta, that first episode back, they probably talk about it a lot. I know that Futurama did. When they first came back after about a 6-year hiatus, they talked about it a lot. In a fourth wall kind of way, right? It was very funny. So, anyway, though, this was it culminated some great storylines. And it was a very emotional storyline featuring one character. And it kind of gave us a good start point. We had the narrator come in and say, she has many more adventures. Guess what the next thing she's going to do? And all that shit. And we have some, definitely some character threads unresolved. But it's a very satisfying ending. very tightly constructed, and it felt like a goddamn season finale. And I really like that. And that's just modern anime. They're not doing the endless wall of content anymore like they used to do. The manga never ends, but we can even the manga, I bet, is more story arc based. Tell me this. Answer this question. One Piece, I guess, has always been story arcs, or did that happen retroactively? Was One Piece just issue, and after a couple hundred issues, they said, oh, by the way, these issues were actually this arc, and these issues are this arc, or did it start out the very first time and said, okay, this is this arc? I bet it was retroactive. I bet back in the day, manga would just come out every month. They didn't worry about storylines. They didn't worry about story arcs. And at some point, they started categorizing things in that way. With Western comic books, it goes either way. Some comic books have story arcs. Sandman famously had that. The Unwritten had story arcs. Lock and Key had story arcs. It was very systematic. It was like 6-issue story arcs, right? Every story arc was 6 issues. And then sometimes they just have like 6 one-shots, and that would be gathered together as a story arc, right? And you could take those 6 issues and you put it in a trade paperback. So it's all very organized in a very systematic way. The problem with that is, like, what if a storyline should be a little bit longer than some of the other things you've been doing? You're confined to 6 issues. That's it. That was the limitation the author put on himself. But a lot of these, I think, I'm not an expert on this, but I think a lot of the superhero stuff is not really story arcs. Maybe they'll have a part 1, part 2, or something. But a lot of just be one shots, and at least when I was reading comic books when I was a kid, they didn't have story arcs. It was just, okay, well, we got Green Lantern in this episode in this issue with Superman or whatever, or something like that. Like I just don't remember them having story arcs. Maybe I'm wrong, but they would have special events, Crisis on Infinite Earth. Of course, that'd be a story arc. I don't remember them routinely having that back then. So I think at some point manga started doing that. The problem is, like we found out with My Hero Academia, you can't easily fit a story arc into a season of anime. They have a certain episode order. So, like, for instance, like what we're doing now with My Hero Academia is carried over from the previous season. That's all one story arc, I think. It's like the final saga or whatever. So they couldn't fit that in one season. Sometimes you can. And with the Apothecary Diaries, I think it's not manga. It's light novels. And it sounds like each season is adapting 2 novels. Each novel is 12 episodes. So you have 24 episodes a season. One novel is 12 episodes. The second novel is 12 episodes. The third novel, I assume, is 12 episodes. And the fourth novel, I assume, is 12 episodes. And so the end of the first season is the end of the second novel. And when a novel ends, it has a bit of a conclusion. I'd be curious to go back and look at episode 12 and see if that felt the same way. If it felt like concluded for a while. And then we start off with some new adventures. I'd be very interested. I bet that was the case. So that's perfectly matched for their 24 season orders. They were like, okay, well, one novel is not enough material for a full season. Let's do 2. Let's divide it up, 12 and 12. Bada bing, bada boom. We're good. You can even do 3 novels if you don't have enough material, and do 8 and 8, right? As long as you end the season on a ending that makes sense, it's like a brief respite before you get into more story. That's what typically happens at the end of novels. In a novel series, the end of each novel will close off the threads of that particular novel, but the overarching story continues next time, and you know that, right? And this one, so all that combined, probably this episode is probably not as impressive as I think it is. If I had seen more modern anime, I wouldn't be as impressed, and if I maybe had seen more things that were based on light novels and they all follow the similar format, maybe I wouldn't be impressed. But I really liked it. It was the end of the season. It felt really good. It was a great first season. I love the show. I love the characters. And I feel like you could probably... Now, you would miss a lot, and you'd never want to do this, but I'm saying you could watch the first couple episodes and then watch the last couple episodes and then jump straight into season 2 if you wanted to. Now, I could be talking on my ass. I haven't seen season 2. So maybe it's so tied into what happened in all of season 1 that you'd be completely lost. But I'm just saying, like, it feels like season 2 is probably going to start off with a new storyline. They'll retain some shit. They have some overarching things. There's a Moriarty out there. She still has a relationship with her father. She's still at the palace, and they're still the concubines and all this stuff. So there's all this shit going on. But none of it is like pressing. There's no cliffhangers, right? Season 1 of Demon Slayer I also finished around the same time. And they're going on board a train and there's an evil dude on the train that's super powerful. That's a goddamn cliffhanger. So it was a good conclusion, but it also, season 1 of Demon Slayer kind of stumbled to the finish line. We had the climax, I think, in episode 22 or 23. And in the final few episodes was just training. I'm not thinking it was even more than that. Was it, I guess you had the mountain arc. When that finished, and then you had the meeting with all the people and he gets officially endorsed, okay, he can continue being a Demon Slayer and they won't kill his sister. At that point, I think we had 4 or 5 episodes left, and it's just training montages and shit. Comedy, character stuff, training montages, backstory for a few characters, into season. And here's the promo for next season. That's not a great way to end the season, That more feels like the old school method of, here's this constant barrage of content that never ends. It never begins and it never ends. You just have to jump in at some point and go from there. That's what this kind of felt like. So Demon Slayer didn't work too well. As an ongoing story, as a binge model, you're going to just binge the next story arc. It's fine. As a complete season in and of itself, I don't think that finale worked at all, right? This finale worked perfectly for that. So, I think this was a really good episode, and it was a really good finish to the season. And this season was tight. I watched it and Demon Slayer side by side all the way through. Very different shows. They're trying to do different things. They're trying to tell different kinds of stories. But the Apothecary Diaries to me is my favorite show I'm watching right now. The comedy, the mystery boxing. There's a mystery to solve every episode. I never solve them, but it's always intriguing me. I love mysteries. And it's always cool to see how she arrives at her conclusions. I love her subservience, which I just don't fully believe. I think it's just reflex. She's always like this. She's always got her hands in front of her head. She's subservient. She'll kneel. She'll be respectful. She won't cross any boundaries with these fucking leaders and nobles and shoguns and emperors and whatever. So she's always doing this shit, but I never fucking believe it. Maybe I'm wrong. I think it's a reflexive servile attitude that she just automatically puts on. But I don't believe it. And there's something about it I really like. I like the fact that I believe that she's full of shit. So, I really like the show. I love the sense of humor. Alright, let's get to the main topic. Now, this is something I drew from a previous poll. I had it on polls a couple times. It did pretty good both times. So, let's just talk about this for a couple of minutes, and then we'll get some feedback and maybe talk about it some more. Probably, if I do a Christmas episode, I might touch on it there, so that we can start the new year fresh. But we'll see. We'll see how much we have to say about this. Which is better? A series-long big bad or a slew of villains? Now, we know what, One Piece kind of is doing both approaches, but not really. Okay? Because when I'm saying series-long big bad, I'm talking about Wolfram, Heart, and Angel. They were always there. Maybe they'd be a little bit of the sidelines. Maybe they're further back. Maybe they're not fucking with Angel as much this season. Maybe in season 4 they probably weren't around very much at all. But boy, did they come back with a vengeance. They're always there. That's a series-long big bad. I'm not talking about the fucking elders and Emu, black hoodie dude in One Piece, who we don't even find out till 2/3 of the story that they even exist. I'm talking about somebody who's present the entire goddamn time. Demon Slayer. I believe Big Daddy Demon, now I could be wrong, he could die in season 2. But I believe that Big Daddy Demon is this series-long big bad. I'm trying to think, what's a good example of that in animes I've watched all the way through? Man. It's okay to have them not be revealed at the very beginning. So I'd say Fullmetal Alchemist counts. They weren't revealed in the very beginning, but they were kind of there the whole time. And we saw like the second banana, the general guy, with the mustache, very early on do some fuck shit. So we kind of knew he was evil, right? We weren't sure what was going on. So the reveal, but the hand was felt early on. In One Piece, it's a series of villains. Each arc has their own villain. And there's pros and cons to this, but so I think this is going to be an individual question for each person. I don't think we can give a definitive answer. Everybody should believe this. What I'm asking is, what do you prefer? Would you rather one big bad, he can have his lieutenants, he can have his minions, and they can go out and be destroyed, and then eventually we face the big bad at the very end? What do you prefer? Do you prefer the big bad with a bunch of lieutenants that we fight, and maybe we fight the big bad every now and then, but like until we get to the end of the series? My Hero Academia is a perfect example of this. You know, Shikamaru, I believe, was in the very first episode, or whatever the hell his name is. The hand boy. I believe they showed him in the very first episode, even if it's just an allusion to it, maybe a quick shot or something. And then they did a very clever thing in that series where they had was it All for One or One for All? I could never remember which one's which because they're just reverses of each other. The evil one, the evil All, I'll just call him Evil All, was there. He was mentioned in the first episode. We meet him later in the first season, and he feels like he's a series-long big bad. But they pulled the bait and switch on you. And so it turns out he's not, and it's the hand boy. He is actually the series-long big bad the whole time. That was a great bait and switch, but you still have a series-long big bad, right? So that's a case where he's there from the beginning, and matter of fact, he predated the entire series. The battle continues. I Boy from Lord of the Rings. You have the one big bad. You have other adversaries. You have other fights you do, but you're fighting the one creature. This is the thing. Voldemort, Harry Potter, the Emperor / Darth Vader in the original trilogy. And of course, the Emperor in the. If you watch the first 6 Star Wars movies in chronological order, started with 1 up to 6. The Emperor is the big bad. He's there. The only episode he doesn't appear in is episode 4. But they mention him, so he's around. So he casts a long shadow over the entire series. So, is that preferable, or is it better to go the Buffy model? You have a big bad that's introduced at the beginning of the season, they're destroyed at the end of the season, next season we move on. We have certain plot lines and certain characters that carry over, certain struggles that carry over, but the big bad is a 1-season thing, and that is it. The Vampire Diaries really fuck with that model because they didn't do it. They didn't categorize it by season. They would have a big bad show up for a while, be destroyed. Another one show up for a while, be destroyed, and you could show up at the last episode of season 1 and be destroyed the third episode of season 3, or it could show up in the middle of season 3 and be destroyed in the first couple episodes of season 4. Like, there was no pattern to it. And I didn't like that chaos. I like the predictability. This is when we're getting the climax. I mean, I actually think Vampire Diaries is a better show as far as action and plot twists and excitement than Buffy is. Buffy's a better show just from writing point of view, themes, characters. It's a better show. Vampire Diaries is a better show. It's a better thrill ride. It's a better roller coaster. And probably part of that is it's not predictable. You don't know when the big bad is going to be defeated. You don't know when he's going to show up. But they did that. They basically, it's a series of big bads, Back to anime. I'm trying to think. I guess Monster had one big bad. You had other things. You had other adversaries. You had other problems. But you had the big bad. And then Naruto was a mess in this category. It didn't know what the hell it wanted to do. I've talked about this before. The ending was just a mess. Yu Yu Hasekai didn't really have an overall big bad. They had a series of villains. What else have I finished? The Fate Stay Night, kind of, I don't even think you had a big bad. You just had people that are going up against each other, right? Same with Garden of Sinners. What the hell else have I finished? Can't think of anything else right now. But most of anime that I've seen is series of bad guys. Or late reveal that the big bad was there the whole time, we didn't know about him, and I don't think that counts. So what do you prefer? It seems like anime, the more I think about at least what I've seen. We've got My Hero Academia had one big bad. Like Attack on Titan, I mean, that we had an overriding big bad, but again, it's just like One Piece. We don't know it until it's way late in the series. The other countries are against us and they're doing this to us and all this shit. So that's, I I don't think that works as a series long big bad. So basically, I think My Hero Academia and Fullmetal Alchemist are the two best examples I've seen of an overriding series long big bad. Almost every other manga, almost every other anime has a series of villains. So it seems like anime prefers a series of villains. Personally, I prefer the overriding big bad. And then if you want to do a sequel series, you get a new big bad or something. Somebody new. I don't mind the Buffy model, but because basically it's what I'm talking about 7 times, right? I like an overriding big bad who basically dominates the story, gets introduced at the beginning of the story, gets killed at the end of the story. We move on. We start again next story. That was Buffy. Buffy did that 7 times because they had 7 seasons. Angel went a different way. They went the overriding series long big bad, and then sometimes they do a season long story. Stargate SG-1 had a series of villains. That's about all I can think of, I think. So I wouldn't mind the Buffy model, but I can't think of an anime that's done that either, where it's like basically an anime, it's a street level boss. We got to get past this bitch. Well, like JoJo, I guess JoJo kind of had a series long big bad, but the story JoJo did the Buffy model. Each story has a big bad. They get defeated. Next story, we get a new big bad. They brought Dion back, So Dio, whatever. So he kind of, for the first 3 parts, was really overshadowing him as a big bad for the whole thing. So that worked out pretty well. And in part 4, they didn't really have a series long, story long big bad. They had a series of engagements. You had one guy who was the most dangerous adversary, but you had a lot of things. And that was a very fun season. But it did feel less cohesive and less coherent and less put together than previous seasons had. Because you didn't have the big bad tying it all together, right? But that was fine. And I'm thinking in part 5, we're going to get more big bad stuff. That's what I think they're doing. I'm pretty far into it. I'm over 20 episodes in. And we still have, we basically have one guy that's kind of dominating things. So that's pretty good. But I guess probably what I like the most is a hybrid, which is each long story arc has a big bad that dominates the whole thing and then basically gets defeated at the end, and in the next story arc we do another thing. But we're not talking about 12 episode story arc. In this case, we're talking about 48 to 39 episode story arcs, right? In JoJo's case. In One Piece, I guess they have story arc big bads, but again, like a lot of anime, I think I interrupted myself. It's street level bosses. We have to defeat this boss, but he's not a mastermind of anything. He's not thinking long term. He's not strategizing long term. Here's my big plan. Here are the people working for me. You got to get through them to get to me. It's just street level boss, street level boss, street level boss, street level boss. Okay, this is a guy who's kind of in charge of everything, but he wasn't really like Kata wasn't hatching any master plans behind the scenes. Big Mom wasn't doing any master plans behind the scenes. The elders and Black Hoodie might be, but if we do this like a story arc, like Thriller Bark, or what the hell was the place where the gas boy was when he was experimenting on the kids and shit? They're the master of their domain. They control their island or something, and I guess they have people working for them in most cases. Big Mom sure as hell did. So sometimes you would get, the feeling of a Buffy big bad. Like Big Mom felt that way in Whole Cake Island, that storyline. She had people work for her. They were dangerous. But it all felt tied together. It was all about her. So that was the closest approximation of what I like. Now, I like all One Piece, don't get me wrong. But I'm saying what really gets me going is you get the big boss with minions and plans and schemes, and this is how I'm going to get it. And then the good guys come in and they mess it all up. And then so it's a series of engagements. And it takes a series of engagements to defeat this person. It's not just one street fight with the street boss, right? And I think most anime caters itself to the low-level, street-level fights, rather than the puppet masterminds orchestrating everything, and they're so hard to defeat because they're so smart and they've thought of everything. And you don't necessarily like, not all of the Buffy villains were geniuses. I'm just saying they kind of impact everything in the story, one way or another. Season 5 specifically, she was no Rhodes Scholar or anything, but she was definitely, like, everything that happened that season kind of came from her in one way or another, right? Even before she showed up. So, personally, I would rather have the My Hero Academia series long big bad that we know about early on, and they can go in and out of focus, and maybe we think they're dead, or maybe we think they're gone, but they come back, and maybe there's a bait and switch where both two people are introduced, and it's this one's actually the big bad instead of this one, but they were here all along. I love that shit, and I think that really increases the rewatchability, rather than just, like I said, a bunch of street fights. But that's me. I like a series long big bad or a story long big bad. I will accept that. That's a lower amount of excitement from me, but I accept that, rather than just, okay, here's the villain for this 9 episode arc. All right, here's the villain for this 15 episode arc. All right, here's the villain for this 2-parter. The JoJo model, at least recently. Those are fine, but I just would like more build up. I'd like more to know about them. So, what do you think? Which one do you prefer? And are there some anime, if it's not a spoiler to tell me this, like if it's a secret series long big bad, don't tell me. But are there some anime that have what I like? That series long big bad, you introduce them in the first episode or whatever, close to their first, and the series ends when we kill that ass. Or maybe they win. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a happy ending. Maybe they win at the end of the series. I don't know. Let me think. Where does Seven Deadly Sins fit in this? I think it was story focused big bads. I don't think they had a series long big bad. Again, because they weren't, as the people we ended up fighting in the last season weren't around in the first season. So there was a slow build up to that. So I don't think that fits my series long, but it was pretty good. It was, I think the last 3 seasons were about the people that we'd be fighting at the end, so that's not bad. It's a fair approximation of what I'm talking about, what I like. The frustrating thing about that is some of the lieutenants would be so goddamn powerful. It was demoralizing. You get some fat, old-ass teacher just stomping you out, kicking your ass. And he's just like 57 down the power scale. There's like 56 demons better than him, but he's just coming in, he is stomping you out. He is unbeatable. Fuck, man. How the hell, if we do beat this son bitch, how the hell are we going to beat anybody above him, man? It'd be frustrating sometimes. The power scale, I don't think, really worked in that series all the time. People are just, generally speaking, they should have been all 10, 15, 20% less powerful. All of them. Lower the power scales of all of them. They just felt to cosmic powers, man. The earth would crack. Like, at some point you just tune out because it's just too much power. I've had a problem with some Elias. Like, that's why I don't think I would like Dragon Ball Z. Because I don't want people to be so goddamn powerful. People are talking about he could, like, solo the next 10 heroes of the 10 most famous anime after Dragon Ball Z. People are saying fucking Goku could solo them all by himself. That's how powerful he is. Well, then what the fuck is the point of watching that shit? Who gives a shit? If he's that fucking powerful. He could solo Luffy and Naruto and Midoriya and Eren from, Attack on Titan. And let me see, the kid from Jujutsu Kaisen. And, I guess in that case, I think we have a big bad. Maybe. I'm not sure yet. I haven't seen enough of that. And he could solo Chainsaw Man. And just, I mean, come on, man. He could solo them all at once. He's so fucking powerful. Then who gives a shit about watching him do anything? Who gives a fuck? I don't understand. Like, why is that cool to watch? Like, I don't, once you get to a certain power level, I just don't give a shit anymore. It's boring. So, Seven Deadly Sins kind of flirted with that a little bit. Anyway, what do you think? Which you prefer? Let me know. Alright, so, time for the hot take. Alright, here we come to the hot take. The last hot take of the year. Boy, I am so tired of fan bases with their stupid fucking opinions. They're fans of TV shows. I'm not just talking about anime. I'm talking about fans of TV shows in general because I'm on Reddit all the time. I talk about shit all the time. Talk about Buffy. Talk about Severance. Talk about Plurbius. I go to anime. Like say I watch episode 6 of season 8 of My Hero Academia. I go to that specific Reddit thread, which doesn't have spoilers beyond that one episode, right? I go to anime specific threads, and fans are the stupidest motherfuckers on the fucking planet. Boy, you some dumb motherfuckers, man. I'm so sick and tired of people watching shit like this. Why doesn't he like her? Damn, he probably shouldn't have done that. I don't understand why he doesn't like her. Motherfucker, they said why they didn't like her 3 times. And I'll tell you another thing. Why do you lazy motherfuckers not look at the other topics put in like Progress, for instance? We see the same post every 6 hours. We already did this, man. I put up something and I was talking about okay, so if you're caught up, I'm not going to be too specific if you're not caught up, so don't worry about it. I'm not going to spoil anything. But basically, I said, because there was a time jump, what do you think happened to this group of people, right? And I put my theories out there. I only got like 8 comments. The very next fucking day in the same subreddit, somebody else asked the same goddamn question, and they got like 50 comments. It's bullshit, man. Why are you ostracizing me and you can reward this sumbitch who just duplicated my homework? Now, they didn't see it, clearly, but why can't you just look? Why are we seeing the same post every 6 hours? That's not real. That's just laziness. People are just fucking lazy. That's what that is. I actually look before I post my question. Before I do a post, I will look because like I don't do a post very often. Most I just reply. I'm a habitual replier. I don't make many posts over on Reddit. But when I do, I actually check, and I check back at least a couple weeks. Did anybody else say something like this? Okay, no, I can do this. But that's just laziness. People are fucking lazy. That's what it is. Man, these some dumb motherfuckers. There's one character, again, I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm going to be vague. There's one character in Plurbius who, over the course of the 7 episodes that have been released so far, has made his viewpoint, his ideology, perfectly fucking clear. There is no shadow of no doubt how he feels about things. And so many people in this subreddit still think it's a possibility he doesn't feel that way. They have made it clear in both action and words. He feels this way 100% ironclad. He's a fanatic. He is not going to change his mind. They're like, what if he changes his mind? Haven't you been watching the 7 fucking episodes, you dumbass? Boy, there's some dumb motherfuckers. And so there's like, I think there's several factors there. One is laziness. It goes back to, they're lazy about not looking, did anybody else post this before they just throw up a post. But also mentally lazy. They don't want to think anything out. It's okay to intuit things. It's okay to be like, okay, they had a 500-mile drive. There's no gas stations available anymore. How do we think, most cars hold about 400 miles worth of driving on them, gas. It can vary. There are trucks that have 2 tanks that you can go 700 miles, whatever. But like most cars, you can go about 400 miles. It's a 500-mile drive. And you can either be, wow, the show didn't explain where they got the gas from, or you can just intuit where they got the gas from. They probably siphoned gas. There's a bunch of cars on the side of the road. Or they asked somebody to turn the pumps on. Those are 2 viable options for the characters. And then we get the answer what happens in both cases for both people, how they got gas in episode 7. But when just episode 6 was out, like how are they getting gas? The show hasn't explained that. That's stupid. There's no way it could happen. Well, the show doesn't have to explain every little fucking thing, man. Like it's just, sometimes it's okay to use your brain and intuit what is the most likely scenario. It's okay to do that. You are allowed, as an audience member, as a fan of a show, you are allowed. I promise you that you're allowed. I can show you the contract. The contract between a TV show and a fan. The contract says you're allowed to make logical assumptions as long as your logical assumptions don't directly contradict something that was on screen. Something said. Like, for instance, if a character says, I refuse to siphon gas and I'm not going to ask them to turn the pumps on, then you got a valid question. Then you can intuit maybe they have a couple jerry cans full of gas in their trunk. Okay, that's possible. You can go to the next step. But you're allowed to make assumptions that are not directly contradicted from the text of the episode. It's okay to do that. You are allowed to do that. And people just won't fucking do it, man. Like, what is that? Like, that's the laziness. They refuse to engage their brain and say, okay, how would I solve this issue? If you're in this situation and all hell's broken loose, you wake up one morning and everybody's abandoned your neighborhood. There's still some cars in other driveways. You need to drive to your cousin's house, and your cousin is 800 miles away. You have a quarter tank of gas in your car. What are you going to do? Are you going to drive till the gas runs out and sit in your car until you starve to death? Or are you going to use your fucking brain? What would you do in this situation? Probably, there are several options. The most likely option is find a piece of hose and start stealing gas from all the cars around you. Fill up your tank and then fill up any containers you have. They have to be enclosed, but fill up any containers you have with gas. Take that shit with you and take the hose with you. That's what you do. So if you do that when you're in the situation, why do you refuse to do that when you're watching a fucking TV show? Why do you refuse to engage your brain? Why is this? Man, fans are some of the laziest bastards. Man, just unbelievable, man. And I know I'm seeing the dregs of society there in Reddit. I understand that. Most people watch a show don't go to the internet to talk about it. They talk in person with their family and friends. So it's only degenerates like me that would even go to Reddit to talk about TV shows. Because boy, is that a shit show. That is a cesspool. Still not as bad as Twitter, but it's bad. So that's one thing, laziness. Then there's the fact that they're not paying attention. Damn, I wonder why he doesn't like her. Why don't you get off your fucking phone and watch the shit, you know? Now look, I miss shit because I'm talking, I'm hard of hearing, and they usually don't have subtitles, so I'm going to miss shit. Because that's the nature of having a reaction channel. You're not going to catch everything. So that's one thing. And so that, a lot of times I will be confused about things. I'm not going to automatically assume the show's written by morons, which is what they do. They assume the show made a mistake. I'm smarter than the show. They made a mistake. They're morons. It's either maybe they missed something, which wouldn't make them morons, by the way. It's human to err is human. Maybe they missed something. Or maybe I wasn't paying attention. You know? And, you know, as a reaction channel, I've just gotten used to the fact I probably just missed something. And that's why I like the rewinds. Because that gets me back on track, right? So, the third thing is, some of these people are just fucking stupid. Like, your brain, your cognition is just not on par with the rest of the human race. Like, you have low brain power. Isn't there a thing, Kim Kardashian, what was the test she did? She did a test. They said her brain power was low. It was like, wow. That got posted in a subreddit called No Shit, Sherlock. But some people just have low brain power. Like, it's not their fault. They were born that way. We're not going to make fun of them. But that's what the problem is. You just don't have the brains God gave an apple, you know? Like, you're a dumbass. That's the only... Either you're lazy... You didn't pay attention, or you're a dumbass. Those are the only three possibilities. I'm tired of seeing it, man. And Plurbius is what's really got me pissed off, because my God, I spent all of yesterday keep getting notifications. People kept replying to me, no, he would just do this. No, he would just do that. They fucking established in 7 episodes, it's like 6 hours of content at least has been established visually, tonally, thematically, and with the goddamn dialogue. They have established he will not do this thing. And you still think he'll do it. Now, were you on your phone the entire time? Are you lazy, mentally lazy, you don't want to think anything through, here's the implications of what we saw, or are you a moron? Which is it? But this is a broader problem. I think fan discourse, fans talking about shows, we're getting progressively dumber and dumber. Just worldwide. I think there's just there is a segment of the population that will run to the internet the second the show is over and just immediately start spouting shit. They haven't thought anything through. They've only seen it the one time. They were on their phone for half of that. Some people said they were fast forwarding because they think Pluribus is slow. So yeah, you miss shit when you fast forward, you moron. So I think there is one exception to this rule. The one exception to this rule are people who watch reactions. Now I'm not just saying that because you watching this are people who watch reactions. I'm also somebody who watches reactions. I'm saying this because if you watch reactions, you will, as a matter of course, watch and rewatch and rewatch. There is shit that I've noticed in Buffy episodes, tiny little details that I've noticed in Buffy episodes 20 years after it aired. The 50th time I watched a reaction episode, they would include a little clip that maybe most other people don't include. This has happened to me several times. I'm like, oh shit, that's why they did this. This little detail here. I'll never forget, I was watching reactions to Once Upon a Time. It was several years after the show had ended. And I was watching reactions to season 1 of Once Upon a Time. And so that started, I think, 2012. And I was watching it almost 10 years after that season aired. I had rewatched the season several times on DVD, and then I'd watched reactions to it a couple times. So I had seen season 1 probably 20 times at this point. Watched when it first came out, rewatched on DVD, rewatched on DVD, watch reaction, and all this shit. I finally noticed a detail. There's one episode, you know, the evil queen hates Snow White. And at one point, Snow White gets exposed as she's trying to have an affair with a married man. Okay, it's more complicated than that, but just the basics is she's trying to have an affair with a married man. And the entire town is treating her like shit. Just treating her like shit. So she comes out of the workplace, and somebody in white paint, big block letters, has painted the word slut on the side of her car, right? And it's just kind of like a thing, okay, the town doesn't like her, somebody didn't like her enough to paint the word slut. That's all you think. You don't really think much of it, right? It's just somebody painted slut. And it's a reason for her to be mad at the married man who won't leave his wife. He's the one that got her in the shit in the first place, right? So she sees that, and she has a breakdown, and she goes off on the dude. So that's the point of the word slut written on the side of the car. But a couple scenes later, probably about half an episode later, we go to the evil queen's office, and there's a camera pan that starts at like at the end of the room, and it goes up like this to her face. And for just a second or two, you can see in the corner of her office, there's white paint with white paintbrushes that haven't been cleaned off, hidden in the corner, just stashed away in the corner. The evil queen painted the word slut. It's never overt. They don't call attention to it. It's a really quick camera move. Most people, I didn't notice it. All the times I've seen it, I never noticed it. Watching a reaction, 10 years after this season aired, I had a little tiny piece of detail. I was like, wait a minute. She's the one who painted the word slut on the car. They show the white paint. That was so funny, man. It was so good. And I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't watched and rewatched it via reactions, right? So I think people who watch reactions are just going to become more immersed in the material. They're going to be exposed to more details. They think things through. You know, and because so many people in the comments, they watch reaction channels and they wouldn't be in my comments. They have such nuanced and interesting takes on these characters and events, and this is why this happened, this is what this person did, remember back here, this here, and you got people like Ariel with their photographic memories of all the character names. They actually know the goddamn character names. Unbelievable. What magic is this, right? But detail-oriented, intelligent, cognitively brilliant, you know, thinking things through, memory retention. The kind of people who watch reaction channels, I think, are the upper crust of fans. And again, I'm not kissing the ass of the people who pay my bills. I am saying this is a demonstrable fact. Because I don't think... Now, there have been some assholes in my comments, people that just don't like me. There was one guy on Patreon that just didn't... He basically hates almost all of anime. I think there's like 1 or 2 anime he liked or something. Just negative about everything. And so... we didn't really get along, right? We didn't really like each other. And we parted ways at some point because we didn't like each other. But what I will say is he had criticisms of all these animes that I actually happen to like, right? He would criticize them, and his criticisms were intelligent and well thought out. Now, I thought some of them were harsh. I thought some of them were just too nitpicky. But you know what they weren't? They weren't fucking stupid. There was nothing stupid about anything he was criticizing. It was all valid points. I think in some cases he was just looking to be negative about everything. Just negative about everything sucks. Everything blows. Why enjoy anything? So, well, you know what that's not? That's not stupid. He had intelligent thoughts. He had seen this shit multiple times. He had thought about it. He had put things together. He'd even put some shit together that never occurred to me. I was like, wow, you know what? That's actually a really good point. I want to enjoy things, so I'm going to ignore that good point. But, it's a good point. So even the people I don't get along with, there are assholes in comics, there are people I don't get along with, there are people that bump heads, somebody criticizes I laugh too much in my reactions, or I repeat the same word too much. That's just a thing. I watch a ton of reaction channels. Every reactor has something they say a lot. I can't remember the channel, but it's like 2 or 3 dudes, right? And the really big burly guy with the beard and mustache always says, that's crazy. He says, that's crazy, 2 or 3 times an episode. And rather than being annoying, I actually like it, right? It's just a way for him to engage with it. Like, he doesn't have anything really pithy to say. He's not trying to talk over too much of the dialogue. He just wants to, wow, that was wild what that just happened right there. So I like it. It's like a catchphrase. There's nothing wrong with the catchphrase. And I think people just get into that because they just want to put something out there because I don't want too long of no talking because then you're not transforming the material. But you don't have anything super intelligent to say. You're just going to put out a reaction. That's my reaction. That's crazy. I don't have a problem with that. But like one of the people that's commenting, the assholes talking about, I say the same thing too much. And get wrecked, I think is what it was. I say get wrecked too much, and I laugh too much. So that's not an intelligent criticism, but he had other comments about other things that was not me sucking that were intelligent. So I'm here to tell you, I don't think I've ever seen somebody who's a fan of reaction channels have a stupid take, have an unintelligent take, have an ill-informed take. Now, I don't necessarily agree with every take. Like some things I don't see it that way, or I think you're probably reaching, or you're probably looking too deep into this, you went too deep. But you know what it's not? It's not fucking stupid. That's what it's not. I've never seen a reaction channel fan who had shitty takes. Stupid takes. Well, maybe shitty takes, but not stupid takes. The takes are thought out. Maybe it's an extreme point of view. Maybe you went something crazy. You took this information, you went in a weird direction with it. But at least you utilize the information that was at hand instead of, why did they do this? They fucking explain why they didn't do this. I don't see any of that in reaction channel fans. Just, like I said, again, not kissing the ass of the people who pay my bills. This is my observation. So, I think we have a real problem with intelligent discourse with TV shows, with other fans, with the exception of reaction channel fans. That's a small percentage. I think reaction channels probably are people who are fans of reaction channels are probably 1% to 2% of a fan base of any show. There's not a lot of people there. Everybody else, there's some really intelligent fans. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I've seen really wild ass intelligent takes on Reddit and some of these other places. That's why I still use it. I still go there because wow, it's like god damn, I didn't think of that. So, yeah, there's a lot of informed ones, but then there's just a lot of just the stupidest fucking people you possibly can imagine running across. So, I just had to get that off my chest, because goddamn, man, there's only so much a man can take. Boy, you some dumb motherfuckers. Not you, though. You, reaction channel fans, you guys are smart as hell, like I said. Alright, well, let's go ahead and get to the current anime watching ranks. At the bottom, Gantz. Now, I've only seen 4 episodes. But it seems to me it's trying too hard to just be edgy, edgelord. It's like, it feels like something written by a teenage edgelord, right? Now, it's not a knock. I'm not saying I don't like it, because I do like it. I'm enjoying it, and it's only been 4 episodes. But right now, like I said, they're just trying to be too edgy. So, they have room to improve. I'm going to watch a couple more tomorrow, actually. So, we'll see how I feel after that. But for now, that's where they're at the bottom. One Piece is next. Go on another hiatus, you assholes. What we actually get is good. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not exactly breaking my neck to watch each next episode when it comes out. I'm still sitting on one that it's already been out for a day and a half. Now, I can't watch it till I do the rewind of the previous episode, but I would have made time if I was super excited to watch it. I'm not, because I know, it's going to be more edging, and then, we're going on a 3-month hiatus or some shit. So, that's where they are. Boruto's next, simply because everything above it is just really strong. I'm loving Boruto, like I said before. I have no financial incentive to keep watching it. I just watch it because I really enjoy the characters. And the characters are great, Just some of the most fun characters that we have in it. It's fun. Like I said, Naruto is fun, right? I said how Naruto is more fun than One Piece, even though I like One Piece more. But there's nothing wrong with fun. You can just have fun. Not everything has to be super serious or even like extra comedic. But you can just have fun. They have their comedy moments, they have their drama moments, they have their tension, they have their action, but really it's just the characters are just a lot of fun to be around. So that's why they're there. JoJo's next. Really liking the story arc halfway through it. Not sure how the hell they're going to get another 19 episodes out of all this. I think I stopped at 20. I can't remember specifically. It may have been a few more than that. Not sure how they're going to get another half season out of all this, so that's very intriguing, but what we've gotten so far has been really banger. It's been excellent. Demon Slayer's next. Like I said, they dropped a little bit here because the finale wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. And again, another show where I really, really like the characters. I know he has to play off people. I'm kind of sick of Pighead. He's one note. He has one dimension. He's a one-trick pony. So unless they start doing more with him, then he can go ahead and go. Because I'm getting tired of him. I do think it's funny. There was one situation where he took the pig head off and then went immediately back on his head. So the dude's obsessed with the goddamn pig head. But, as far as it. But yeah, it's really good. Next one is Lord Mello or whatever. Got the psychopathic boss, basically extorted the man to become her puppet until she comes of age and she can become the Lordette or lady, I guess she would be called, lady. Right now, he's a puppet, her hands up his ass, and he has to do everything she says and all this shit. Interesting dynamics there. Really love Gray, the minion. What the hell's going on with her? This franchise, this author, always has interesting characters. He knows how to create interesting characters, man. People, you're like, wow, I want to see more of this person. This blows my mind. That's a talent. Isaac Asimov is one of the best fiction minds we've ever had. He has so many great ideas, but he couldn't write characters to save his ass. He was terrible. The cardboard ass, plot device ass, one-dimensional ass characters, all of them. None of them stand out. None of them are memorable. Maybe the mule was memorable. Maybe. And his robots were memorable. A few of them. The Bicentennial Man was definitely memorable. But other than that, man, it's just so much cardboard, so much one dimension. So you can have great ideas and be a great writer and just suck at writing characters. And you can get famous and rich, and he did both. But man, it's just, yeah. So this, what I'm saying is, the author who wrote this and all this other stuff I've been watching has, he is just an innate talent for creating characters that are memorable and really stand out. So that's pretty cool. I like that show a lot. Number 3, My Hero Academia is back. I've watched all the way up to episode 6. I've got 2 in the can. I'm getting 2 later this week probably, but I have all this other shit to do. But we're down to 5 episodes left in the entire series. So that's going to be sad. But yeah, so far so good. They're wrapping things up very nicely. It would be really hard to have this be at the bottom of the list when you've only got a few episodes left because they're resolving shit. They are finally resolving shit. If you don't stick that landing, you really suck. And it's possible. The Attack on Titan ending was not great. It was okay. It wasn't great. So it's possible to have a great story that doesn't quite stick to landing. We'll see what happens here, but for now, it's number 3. Gintama is number 2. I've actually watched 3 more episodes. I'm watching an episode or 2 a day. I'm just trying to stack up a bunch, and then I'm going to post them. But I'm trying to, every now and then, okay, I've got 30 minutes before I need to get some sleep. Let me get one of these in real quick. So I've been kind of doing that. So I've been kind of watching one here and one there. And man, is it just such an entertaining show. They had one about sports, soccer. Just absolutely hilarious. And it made me realize, I talked about this during my reactions. I really believe that the author wanted to do drama and was stuck with comedy because he was better at doing comedy. I elaborate in the reactions, so you can go check those out when I do finally post them. But I really believe that. Like, watching these episodes, like, he wanted to do love stories and tragic hero stories and tragic backstories and just drama. He wanted to do dramatic. He wanted to do Attack on Titan. Or what is some other good drama anime? I don't know. I've seen very many. He wanted to do like maybe Perfect Blue or shit like that. Those movies and stuff. They're just dramatic, tragic, gut wrenching. He wanted to do that shit, and he just he couldn't get paid doing that, so he got paid doing something he's really good at. That's not his first love, which I believe is comedy. So, but like I said, I elaborate in your actions. But yeah, it's number 2. Apothecary Diaries. I've already talked about that ad nauseum this podcast. It is just so well done. It is so well done, and it's really it's so far. I mean, we're just one season in. We're only 24 episodes in. That's essentially maybe 10 hours of content if you cut out the songs and shit. Tight, super tight characters, super memorable mysteries. It's hard to come up with a bunch of mysteries that make sense, because the thing with mysteries is first you got to create a mystery. And you start with the resolution and work backwards and distribute the clues and all that stuff. But then you got to make it make sense for the character to figure this shit out. And this character, they've really done this well, because I believe that she can figure this shit out. And I always loved, here it is when she's thinking, and then she's all cat ears and cattail when she's figured it out. Love that show so much. Really, really like it. All right, well, that's a wrap for this year. Probably going to have time. I don't know if I'll have time for the secret second bonus episode that will, backup episode. I don't know if I'm going to have time for that. I know I talked about that at the beginning, 3 or more hours ago. But I don't know if I'm going to have time. I'm going to try to make time to do some kind of like holiday theme, something about Christmas or New Year's Eve. Shorter form, no Q&A, no real segments, just talking about these kind of things for a little bit. I'll try to do that. Otherwise, I'll see you a week or two into January. And if you haven't seen anything about a podcast, I would say by the 15th of January, definitely hit me up. I'm not going to forget, but something happened. So, but I'm not going to release it until I've got it set up to where, okay, I'm offset a week, right? So whenever I finish the January podcast, it'll come out a week later, and that should get me on a schedule where I'm never late again. So we'll see how that goes. All right, well, see you next year.